Westford Conservation Commission meeting for Wednesday, October 25th, 2023. This meeting is being broadcast live by Westford Cable Access TV, and it's being recorded for playback online. So our first agenda item is open forum. Do any members of the commission have something for open forum? Matt?
Just have two items. Tomorrow night at 6:30 p.m. at the Stony Brook School Auditorium, there'll be a public workshop on the MBTA Communities Act compliance and the planning related there too. So please attend.
I'm going.
Yes, thank you. And next Wednesday, November 1st at 6:30 p.m. in this room in Town Hall, the Engineering Department and TEC will be presenting to the Pedestrian Safety Committee the Plain Road Sidewalk Extension Plans Phase 2. The original Phase 1 was reviewed by the Commission, I think, about 18 months ago. And so this is from Stony Brook, the entrance to the Stony Brook Conservation Area, up Plain Road towards the Grassy Pond Conservation Area entrance. I'll have plans for the commission at their next meeting to, if anybody has comments. But I know one comment from the Phase 1 was that the signs weren't located on the plans, and they are on Phase 2.
Do any members of the audience have something for open forum? Oh, okay, so moving on to our next agenda item. It's a request to install boardwalks at Lakeside Meadows Conservation Restriction number 38. Eagle Scout candidate Lokuta. So,
All right, thank you everybody for meeting with me. So we'll just go straight to an introduction about me. So I'm a Life Scout in Troop 195. I'm a sophomore at WA. I'm a member of WA Robotics Club, and I've been in Boy Scouts since first grade. So that's just a bit about me. So the project in question is the construction of a boardwalk on the Lakeside Meadows Conservation Land. You can see there the location. How do I use it? There you go. Right there, that red box, that's the location. The trail is covered in water during the wet season, so this will make the trail more usable. And this is an extension of an existing boardwalk, so it's not a completely new thing. And the proposed extension, it abuts both ends of the existing boardwalk bridge, so it's on both edges of it. Here is some information on the site. You see the parcel ID and the owners. Now I require Conservation Commission approval because you are co-owners and you have a CR restriction in place on this property. And so both yourselves and the Lakeside Meadows Homeowners Association must sign my Eagle project proposal in order for me to continue. All right. And here's just a brief overview of the current damage to the trail. The boardwalk will help alleviate this. You can see bike ruts and footprints and other damage. So just a brief design of the way the boardwalk is put together. So it's built on grade out of ground contact rated pressure treated lumber, 40 inches wide to satisfy those requirements regarding why can't I think of the word?
Accessibility.
Yeah, accessibility requirements. Screws, and so it's designed to survive. I'm not going to go read every single thing. It's modular. It can be scaled up and down easily in the future. The HOA has selected 100 feet of boardwalk, 110 feet if you do the math. And you can see the length of the boardwalk right here, 36 feet on the Birchwood Road side to the bridge, 72 feet from the bridge to beach. A question that they had, so the HOA desires the ability to upgrade to 300 feet in the future if they want to do that. Would it be possible to get like 300 feet signed off by the boardwalk, only build 100 feet now, and then in the near future build the next 200 feet or so afterwards? Or does it have to all be done in one go, or different permits for each expansion upgrade?
I want to say we can. Let me just work through the logistics. I certainly think it should be doable, and
A phase one and a phase two?
Yeah, and if the more southerly end of it gets expanded at a later date, we can accommodate it and make it work.
Yeah.
I think so, especially in terms of the order, an order of conditions. Again, this is kind
Not
of
trying
in a
to
wet meadow.
avoid segmentation or anything, something like this, really?
Yeah, we could, as long as it's constructed in a similar manner,
Yeah.
and, it could be a phase two and, if it doesn't get acted upon within, the validity of the order, it certainly, could just be closed out, for the phase one, we could certainly issue a, partial certificate of compliance for the work that was done.
We'd have the plans in with the package, and so if another scout comes in a couple of years and wants to extend another 100 feet or something, you could pass them the plans.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, and would it actually be restricted to another scout? That if the homeowners association wanted to
Yeah, it
have
could
somebody
be,
else?
and again, we can certainly craft, an order of conditions and make sure we list appropriate parties so that, after kind of phase one is done, the homeowners association can continue on.
Would you want to review before an extension is done, review,
Oh, I'm sure you would.
like the site, because things could change, right?
Right, I think it certainly was at its most wet, about 2-3 weeks ago when I met on site, and currently the access is 2x6s lined up end to end, and it's certainly a tightrope to walk. So I certainly think I certainly think it would be beneficial to, about 300 feet would be on that southern side, certainly would be beneficial overall, and just compaction and trampling. So
Yeah, my point is if things change in 2 or 3 years, if something could change, make conditions different from today, so.
yeah,
If someone's building another 100 or 200 feet, you'll look at it.
Well, could we put something into the order, the conditions that talked about a review of the post-phase one conditions to determine whether modifications
right,
are needed?
or prior to commencing phase two,
Exactly, yeah.
what's that makes good sense.
Okay, so here's just another overview of the design. This is a slightly older drawing, so it uses only 3 of these 2x8x10s. The current design uses 5 of them. I just didn't update the drawing. So this just shows how the thing is put together. And yeah, I believe that's all on this slide. And then for curves, this is how it's put together. You just cut the decking at an angle. So that's how it's put together. One thing that I did not mention, that I forgot to mention, these boards on the bottom, the sleepers, are 2x6s laid on their sides to screw it together, hold the whole thing rigid, and they sit on they just sit directly on grade. It's not concrete pilings. There's none of that. It just sits on grade, so minimal disturbance. And then here's just a brief list of the next steps that I have to complete. So I got to fill out my notice of intent. I have a conservation trust meeting, and then beyond that, it's just BSA stuff, fundraising, and then construction and handoff. So that's a brief and very overview timeline of what will come in the future.
So this conservation restriction is co-held by the commission and the Westford Conservation Trust, so that's why getting before their December meeting they're included as well.
Do you know what chemicals are used in the pressure-treated lumber?
I do not know the exact thing. It was like, I don't know the exact formula, but it's ground contact rated, so it won't decay. And from what I read about the lumber, it's designed in such a way that it won't leach and cause environmental disruption, so I don't foresee any problems with this chemical.
That was my concern, that it's going to be washing directly into the lake, and so you don't want to use anything that's harmful to the fish and wildlife there, or promotes weeds.
No.
Is there a lot of usage of this path currently?
There seems to be, based on the slide with the damage to the mud, there must be a good number of people going through here to cause this kind of ruts and footprints and stuff, so this will certainly clear this up. So yeah, this will be a well-used thing.
Matt, do you have anything?
I have nothing further.
Do you members of the audience have any comments or questions on this project? Okay, so can I have a motion to support this project so that you have our support to start the next steps?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right,
Okay,
I believe is all.
yeah. Moving on to our next agenda item, it's the Tom Pole Trail footbridges. Eagle Scout candidate Sagerman requesting a certificate of compliance and request for supplemental project funding.
Right. Hello, everyone.
Your name for the record?
AJ Sageman.
Okay.
Great. So a few months back, I presented to you guys for my my order conditions for my Eagle project that was signed off. And over the past month or so, I've been putting together the bridges and installing them on the trail. So I have completely finished the installation phase of the project. So both bridges are on the trail. They were designed exactly to specifications. So they're 4 feet wide and 12 feet long, 3 feet tall handrails. I buried the concrete blocks in the ground, put the posts of the bridge in the ground, and put the concrete in the concrete blocks, so it's all secure. I visited with Mr. Salem and his building commissioner, so it's all signed off and good there. And there's really no major deviations from the plan. The only real new thing I added is on one of the bridges. There's a small little addition right here. So we took the old bridge, cut it in half, and made a little 4x4 platform. So it's not actually like attached to anything, it's resting on top. So it's not attached to either the ground or the bridge, because there's just like a muddy area there that wasn't there when we originally planned the project. So we just made use of the bridge and stuck it down there, and there's no permanent alterations to that area caused by that addition.
Any questions?
Looks good.
Yeah, looks good.
I have, again, the building commissioner signed off on occupancy, so.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Can I have a motion to issue the certificate of compliance for DEP file number 334-1828?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And you had a second point you wanted
Yes.
to talk about.
So again, back when I presented this initially, the Conservation Commission said that if at the end of the project I needed some additional funds, that you guys would be willing to donate some. So when everything came down to it, I ended up having to get some additional supplies that I wasn't expecting. I had to get some additional concrete and some screws and stuff. So I went a bit over budget, so I'm requesting $129 from the commission.
How much? I didn't hear.
$129.
Okay.
So that will go towards purchasing 2 plaques that will be placed on the bridges, basically saying, you know, this is an Eagle project, when it was created, and also thanking all the people and groups that helped me with the project.
That'll cover all your materials that you've.
Yes.
Great.
Okay,
Sounds
and
good to me.
We can do that.
Matt, what's the name of the, because I know in the past there's been excess funds donated, so
Yeah, it's
where would
the,
this be?
Usually up to
from the
250.
Scouts Fund.
Okay.
There's a line item that I
Okay.
can
Want a
tap
motion
in.
to
So
approve?
can I have a motion to contribute $129 from the Scouts Fund for this Eagle Scout project?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All set?
All set?
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, and if we could take a photo for the memorialization.
Must be a proud father.
Just stay here.
Don't have to get up.
Everybody kind of move in. Just roll over. Just roll over in your chair, Marilyn. You can scout right behind us here.
Okay, everybody say cheese.
Cheese.
Fromage.
One more time, cheese. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.
Congratulations.
Thanks, AJ.
Okay, so moving on to our
Sorry.
7:05 PM agenda item, a public hearing for Jack and Clara Farmstead LLC.
Under Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Westford's non-zoning wetlands bylaw, Chapter 171, the Westford Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, October 25th, 2023 at 7:05 PM in Meeting Room 201 at Town Hall, 55 Main Street, to consider the request of determination of applicability application of Jack and Clara Farmstead LLC for replacement of an existing tent with a permanent two-story function room and arcade on existing concrete footings, 2 decks elevated on new footings, and installation of an underground stormwater management system within 100 feet of bordering vegetative wetlands and an intermittent stream at 400 Littleton Road.
Good evening. For the record, Russ Tedford from Hancock Associates here representing the applicant, Jack and Clara Farmstead, LLC. So today we're here for an application for a request for determination of applicability for 400 Littleton Road, more commonly known as Kimball's Farm. So the project area of the site is located at the existing arcade tent and restroom facility. It's approximately 140 feet from Littleton Road. And the project area itself is about 19,000 square feet. Here, if you could just scroll to the existing conditions plan. Thank you. Yeah, and so the existing condition today, there is they call it the Sawmill Museum, which is old, old farm equipment, the existing restroom building, and then the existing arcade tent and associated ramps along with it. So existing utilities on site that exist are the existing sewer, water, and electric. They're all routed to that existing restroom building there. And then there's also electric on both the left and right of the existing arcade tent. So the existing arcade tent was part of a 2011 Notice of Intent filing that was permitted after the fact of the arcade tent construction. And what you're seeing here for existing stormwater on site are recharge trenches. They're about 4 foot wide, 2 foot deep stone trenches placed at the drip line of the existing roofs on the front of the arcade tent as well as the rear, and you can see some of it borders the ramp that leads up to the arcade tent along as the backside of the existing restroom area. BVW is located on site. It was flagged by our office in summer 2023, and then we completed a survey shortly after that was done. Matt, if you could just fan to this is the proposed project here. What they're looking to do is reconstruct the existing floor of the first floor of the arcade, and then build additional arcade space in front of it here. Propose another restroom facility to the left of it, and then formalize this sawmill museum. This sawmill museum isn't really habitable space. It's basically meant to put a roof over the equipment and then have plexiglass in front of it so that people may observe. So to mention that the front portion of the arcade is going to be 1 floor. The rear portion is going to be 2 floors, first floor being arcade, where it exists now, and then a second floor that is an assembly space function room. And then off of that function room, there's going to be 2 decks proposed to the left and right. As part of this project, we'll have to reconfigure some of the access to the building, that being handicap ramp in the front with a stairwell, as well as this side entrance here. This is where the bumper boat facility is, so there have to be a reconstructed walkway there to give us egress to the first floor. As part of this project, all of the electric and AC equipment along this side here is going to be moved to the other side here. There's an electric transformer that we're showing here, but actually we've had some talks with the applicant. They're going to move it further away from the wetlands. It's probably about 20 to 30 feet from that buffer line in the corner there. So, and the proposed utilities of service, this new facility are intended to be routed through the existing restroom building, and through here, and this is where all the mechanical, the mech room is, as well as, basic, for the elevator and whatnot. So in order to mitigate where we're, proposing for new impervious as well as damaged recharge trenches that are going to go away as part of this development, we're proposing an underground infiltration system comprised of storm tech chambers. It's about 3-foot cross section. They're actually going to be located under the building, and guttered roof flow is going to be directed to these systems here. They're connected through a system of manifolds and network of pipes. Basically, I have to penetrate through here, through the restroom facility, to this last row of chambers, coming out in this drain manhole, which is going to govern the flow also, withhold some so that we are able to recharge. And then eventually going to this overflow catch basin here. That overflow catch basin is going to be surrounded by riprap rock to prevent any erosion and scour. And as you can see, proposed erosion control along the wetland line is going to be a silt fence and straw wattle. Basically carries from the edge of the bumper boat walkway here along the edge of the wetlands and then connecting to the existing paved area right there. Guess I should also mention that Monday we were here for planning board, part of a special permit filing for the overlay district that we were in. It went well. I think we're just waiting on comments from town engineer to come in on the stormwater feature. But other than that, they were pretty happy with this project. That wraps up my presentation. I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Questions from members of the commission?
The mill museum, a good chunk of that is inside the 50-foot no-build buffer, and both decks are in the 30-foot no disturb, and the 50-foot, and one of the 50-foot buffers also no build.
So what?
And that's an expansion from the tent site that's already there.
Mm-hmm. So what we're trying to do as part of this project is just maintain our distance that we're the setback distance from the wetlands in terms of the buildable area. That's really in this corner here as well as the corner, the other corner to the left there.
Right, but I was talking about the decks in the museum inside the no build buffers, inside the no disturb buffer.
So you're talking about increased development within those buffers?
There wasn't development there before.
So there's old farm equipment there that just exists on, I believe it's just slab or hard pan gravel. So what we're trying to do here is just put a roof over it to protect it, as well as, just make it viewable for people walking the path there.
Mike, did you go there?
I have not gone out to the site. I didn't know if the commission wanted to go out for a site visit to review the existing conditions and.
Well, and actually, I do have a question. On the existing conditions, what is it, what is between, what is the vegetation, et cetera, like between that recharge trench and the edge of the wetlands?
It's just, it's lawn, it's really not.
So it's maintained lawn?
It's not lawn.
Well, is it?
No.
Can you
Okay.
introduce yourself?
So for the record, Brian Goodrow with Hancock Associates. I'm a civil engineer on this, working with RAS, the engineer of record. So behind the building, there's the stone infiltration trench, And then generally, it's not maintained lawn area, it's just naturalized, if you will, but there's no vegetation until you hit the actual edge of woodland. So there's some trees back there, and that really starts the vegetation.
So there's some trees shown on the plan.
Correct.
Is it just bare dirt between the trees?
More or less. more or
Okay.
less,
Aren't there
yes.
picnic
And
benches
then
in there?
toward,
No, because this is different than the tent, which is a function room, right?
correct.
So this is another tent.
This is another area up by the front towards Littleton Road. And then to the left-hand side of the existing tent, there's a lot of crushed stone, utilities. If you look, there's a generator, the transformers there,
Yeah.
there's mechanical equipment. There's an existing ramp in that area. So when we were talking about the deck earlier in that location, it's a second-story deck with a couple of sonotubes that's over this area. These utilities are being relocated. And then this area outside of the walkway reconstruction is going to be naturalized. That area actually gets a little bit of sunlight, so you'll probably get some vegetation growth there.
Okay. So on the proposed plan, where it talks about loam and seed, I'm assuming that's not intended to become
Not
lawn.
manicured lawn, correct. If the commission would like to see us spread some wetland seed mix back there, we're open to that as well. Essentially, once construction's done, the only activity that will happen would be any routine maintenance associated with the drip edge that's there. So that's just leaf removal for the 2-foot trench.
Okay. Go ahead, Noel.
So could you tell me a little bit about what's there currently? There's a tent, it says, I think it precedes the act, is that correct?
Yeah, so I think the description within the filing, there was one sentence that says it precedes the local bylaw. I don't find that to be accurate. Matt had brought attention to that today. I don't know the exact history of how the tent ended up in that location. I just know that there was a notice of intent that was filed after the tent was already up. So the existing condition, what we're trying to maintain is the setback distance from the tent to any part of the proposed structure. So we have 10.3 feet from the edge of the tent now, and we have 10.3 from the second story overhang, the deck, if you will, and then the corner of the new structure.
Okay. And how's the tent secured now? Is just,
It's on sonotubes, and they
Okay.
have anchors, so there's like string lines and anchors holding it down. It's circus tent, if you will.
sure, okay.
Still covering up too much of the no build, no disturb buffer.
See it. Yeah, do a site visit.
Yeah, I think that might be helpful, especially
What
if
did
you,
you say? I can't hear
Site
anybody.
It's still covering up too much, covering up some of the no disturb and no,
but also
no
talking
build
about a
buffers.
site visit. Yeah, so if you're still open with the planning board, get out there while the weather's still nice.
Yeah, you continued with the planning board to the 6th.
So we are continued
The 6th, yeah.
to the 6th, correct?
Okay,
And
and our next
then
meeting would be the 8th.
Would be the subsequent meeting,
Yep.
so.
Okay,
And one thing I think that will be beneficial for the sidewalk is to see what the sawmill actually is. There's a lot of concrete foundation out there. Was an active sawmill at one point in time, so it's not like we're taking area that currently doesn't have anything on it. We're essentially covering the existing foundations that's there, the existing saw equipment that's there. So it'll be very, very clear, I think, in the field what we're proposing.
and so you're also talking about places now where there's, where there's crushed stone, under the proposed plan, it would become, vegetated ground as opposed to,
So the
Wow.
crushed stone drip edge behind the building is
Yep.
gonna remain.
okay,
So that is actually gonna take the back, half of the roof, and then the entire rest of the structure, we're gonna gutter and convey to the underground system.
okay. Yeah, because, I mean, one of the things I'm thinking is, right along the edge of the wetlands there, we wouldn't want to encourage, foot traffic, whatever, is
Yeah.
potentially, do we want to do a wildflower seed mix? Do we want to do some kind of a natural ground cover for slope stability or whatever? I think there's a lot of possibilities.
Yeah, understood. And I think also telling, during the site walk, you'll be able to see what's back there. It's not a cut through to anything. It's very overgrown.
Okay.
And what's the width of the deck as in this, you know?
Wide is that,
That's
15
probably
feet?
12 or 15 feet.
And,
Yeah,
you know, and, you know, I see there's, you know, I understand that, you know, necessary egresses need to be made for, you know, be accommodate for whatever the capacity is. But does it need to go to meet the same, oops, sorry, Jim.
The 10.3.
Yeah, the 10.3, you know, can it be shortened up and, you know, thinner, you know, whatever, you know, the minimum distance
Yep.
for egress here, and then, you know.
Understood. We can certainly look at that.
And the other thing, you know, and I don't know where this falls under, whether this is planning review or whatever, but if you've got 2 second-story decks, and you have a situation where people are on the deck and they need to evacuate, you know, has that aspect of the plan been looked at?
So there's stairways in both these decks here. They're not shown on this plan. You can see, so the second floor deck comes out here.
Yeah.
This lower piece here, that's the first floor deck where this this walkway comes up to meet.
Okay.
And then additionally, there's also a stairway over here, under the deck here that we're not showing.
Okay, so
So it's just a second floor. It's not a 2-story deck. It's, okay.
It's
Okay.
second,
Oh, yeah,
second
the-
store, you go down for egress, and then it's the employee
that makes-
boardwalk to the bumper boats on one side, and then out to the parking lot, if you will, on the right-hand side.
okay. So I think what we'd be interested in knowing for under both those decks, what's proposed to be on the ground, you know?
Yep.
Where is there gonna be a concrete pad for stairs coming down? Where is there going to be a pervious surface so that water can recharge? Or whatever, you know?
Yeah. Matt, did we submit building elevations?
I don't think we did.
Think so.
So we can provide those
Just
for
the-
next time as
yeah,
well.
construction details.
What's the contour of the land here? Does it slope towards the wetlands?
It does, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So the front, the parking lot is up at elevation
Oh, I
roughly
see it now.
249, 250, and the wetlands are down at 240. So there's about a 10-foot kind of slope across this area.
Okay,
We should also get how much impervious surface is added in. I mean, this whole thing is inside the 100-foot. Are the, yeah, all the new construction is inside the 100-foot buffer, every bit of it.
does the filing include current impervious? in
I'm
the
trying
building?
to see what.
Yeah.
It
It's on the
does.
plan
So
up here.
on sheet 1 at the top left, there's a couple of paragraphs. One's plan intent, regulatory notes, drainage calculations, and site data. Under site data, the existing impervious is 10,575 square feet. Proposed impervious is 14,200 for a net increase of 3,625. Now, that 3,625 is predominantly away from the wetlands because our additions are at the front of the building for the expanded kind of lobby, if you will, of the arcade, and then the infill of the restroom, where the existing restroom building is, to where the existing tent is.
But the stormwater recharge that you're talking about, that applies to both construction in the buffer and outside the buffer?
It does. So as
Okay.
I was describing, the only, the practice that we're maintaining out there is the drip edge at the rear. So we're not proposing to really try to do any work on that backside. And then on the front half of the main portion of the structure, which is the big rectangle, plus all of the other roof, the roof over the sawmill, the roof over the lobby, as well as the roof over the existing bathrooms, are gonna be directed via downspouts and gutters to the underground system.
Roof over the decks too, right? I see roof drains on.
Yes, the roof over the decks, correct.
Are those decks going to be like decking so that there's spaces between, so that
Exactly.
there would be some water falling through the decks.
They are covered by a roof and then guttered, but
Okay.
anything that splashes back or whatnot would fall
Okay.
through.
Any horizontal rain,
Yes, exactly, wind blown rain.
okay. Before we talk about site visit, are there any comments or questions from members of the audience on this project? No. So, Matt, do you know can you coordinate?
Yes, I'll
Like-
coordinate, probably be early next week.
Are these, just for my clarification, are these like business hours, nighttime? What does the commission prefer, weekends? I'm happy to meet anybody on site as well, if we want to do it as a group, if we want to do it individually, we're happy to do a
Try to aim for
couple.
like 2 to 4.
Okay.
Sometime, again,
Does that work for
I want to do
people?
it during business hours too. And, we'll
Oh,
just,
sometime early next week.
It depends, okay.
You thinking afternoon, Matt?
Hmm?
Are you thinking in the afternoon?
yeah, 2 to 4-ish, 2 to 5-ish.
In that window?
Yeah, sometime like that, either Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Monday, Tuesday. No, I can do 2, I
Okay,
guess.
Okay.
but I'll coordinate and kind of figure out what's the best available for everybody.
So we ready to do it? So the plan then is to schedule a site visit, and we'll have, continue the public hearing to our November 8th meeting, and at which point, the expectation is that you would have your planning board decision, and we would be able to close on this as well.
That would be ideal.
Okay. Can I have a motion to continue the public hearing to November 8th?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay,
Thank you for your time.
Okay, moving on to our 7:10 PM agenda item. It's continuation of a public hearing for 35 and 39 Town Farm Road.
So the applicant I wanted this to be more of a discussion with the commission as they're still making revisions based upon their first ZBA hearing. Following up from the commission's last meeting, they did provide the long-term pollution prevention plan and O&M plan, which was kind of one of the last outstanding items. In speaking with the town planner regarding the opening public hearing for the zoning board of appeals, it was generally received favorably, I think, and none of the components of the project within the buffer were anything with which would be changed, in a plan revision.
Any changes would not likely fall under our jurisdiction.
Exactly. But I know you did find a couple questions in
The long-term maintenance, yeah.
yeah.
They forgot to change Hingham to Westford with one thing, but then also, there was a part of it that talked about cost estimates, and they're using something standard, but they're using costs from 2008, and it really I said, how relevant can that be today?
I'll follow up with the engineering department on
Okay.
whether I think that's the standard practice. I don't think they've updated the stormwater regs, so that's just what the numbers are.
So does that put DPW, well, I guess it would be the property owner that would bear
Right,
the cost?
right, I think it's the property owner and the operator, whereas the day-to-day operation and the maintenance of it will be through the,
So that's their cost, not ours?
yeah.
Okay.
So, but I can confirm that. But again, just wanted to provide this, and if there's any other questions, I can take them back and share them with the design engineer, and the commission's subsequent meeting on November 29th is after when a draft decision would be, I think they were drafted, would be after revisions would be made following the next November ZBA meeting.
Does anybody have other questions to be carried back to the applicant? Since the applicant is not here, I'm gonna bypass.
They, in an
Well-
email, allowed to, the continuation to the second November meeting.
Well, I was thinking about if, members of the audience wanted
Well,
to.
if there's members of the audience, I can take questions.
So
too.
this is about the development that's proposed at 35 and 39 Town Farm Road, for the rehab of the Town Farm building and then also the affordable housing. If anybody's got any questions, now's your opportunity to ask them. No, okay. Can I have a motion to continue the public hearing to November 29th?
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Moving on to our 7:15 PM agenda item. It's a public hearing for Zirkle, 17 Jonas Road.
Under Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Westford's non-zoning wetlands bylaw, Chapter 171, the Westford Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, October 25th, 2023, at 7:15 PM in Meeting Room 201 at Town Hall, 55 Main Street, to consider the request for determination of applicability application of Kathleen Zirkle for the abandonment of an existing septic tank and installation of a new septic tank and leach field within 100 feet of bordering vegetative wetlands and bordering land subject to flooding at 17 Jonas Road.
Should we sit here?
Thank you.
Good evening. Jeff Hannaford, representing the applicant at 17 Jonas Road. This is for the repair of a failed septic system. This is, if you're not familiar with Jonas Road, as you can see on the plan, there's an actual town line that runs diagonally through, actually through their pool there that you can see in the circle. This is over between Chelmsford and Westford. It's West Chelmsford and the NAB area of Westford. And that's a wetlands associated with Stony Brook on the lower right of the property. Jonas Road is shown at the top. It's at the very end. This is the last house on the right. It's a 3-bedroom home with a detached garage, as you can see, driveways on the left side there. The septic system is to the rear of the property, of the house rather, and the existing septic tank is in the same location as we're proposing a new tank there, coming straight out the back of the house. From there down to the leaching area, it does slope down about 4 to 6 feet. And the existing leach field is in the approximate same location there. There's also an existing barn there, as you can see, in the lower portion of the plan. So in looking at it, based on where the plumbing comes out and the change in topography, we felt that this was the only suitable area that we could work in. It does look like there's room in the front, but there is a water line. Would have to be 10 feet off the water line. So we'd be starting the system in the front center of the house, about where the front entrance is, and then going to the right. But the problem with that is that's up quite a bit higher than the rear yard. And the only way to get, because of the finished basement and where the plumbing is coming out the back, the only way to get it around to the front would have to put in a pump chamber, pump it down the hill and then back up the hill around to the other side. The other problem is you can see the topography on the front. It's pretty much a mirror of what's going on in the back. From the front steps going down towards the pool, it drops about 6 feet. So we'd be trying to build a leach field on that slope, which would create a problem in having to fill further down into the rear yard to create a level spot that we could work in. So considering the existing leach field is actually closer to the wet than what we're proposing, we feel that the two-compartment tank is a better treatment of the sewage, and we're using a innovative alternative type leach field and moving it about, let's say we're, what are the numbers, 15 feet, maybe 10 to 15 feet further away from the wetlands than it is now, depending on which end you measure from. So we feel that although we are in the buffer zone, that we're in an area and as far as possible from the wetlands. It does meet all of the requirements of Title V and the local Board of Health regulations in this location without a variance. So the Board of Health has approved it in the location as you see. As far as the wetlands, there is a slope between the tank and the leach field, but once you're down to the area of the leach field, you'll notice there's very few contours shown because it's a relatively flat area. So the issue of potential for erosion is minimized there. We do show erosion control from that barn all the way up around the outside of the pool there. We do recognize that access will have to come from around the front of the house. So that's why we extended the erosion control all the way across the backyard and not just where the leach field is. So we took access into consideration on erosion control. We have that covered. And you know, as far as filling is concerned, what's actually going to be happening is a little bit of a cut, not a fill, into that slope between the tank and the leach field. In order to gain the distance from the leach field, as you can see, it's angled such that the end towards the barn is actually being pushed into that slope a little bit. We can't have more than 3 feet of cover over the leach field, so in that corner that's going into the slope towards the tank, they'll be removing a little bit of that slope there to maintain the 3 foot of cover at the corner of the leach field. As far as any filling, there might be a little bit on the opposite corner, but we're talking about something in the order of about 6 inches. So it's very minimal. So very little, almost negligible filling. And like I said, it's in an area that, the only area that logistically made sense to do the work and make it fit.
Jim?
Your old septic leaching system looks like it was 60 feet from the wetlands. The current one you have in your design is 70 feet. Any chance you get another 10 feet by moving your proposed leaching field a little bit to towards the swimming pool direction? It wouldn't make it any closer to the house. It still ought to be about 21 feet from the house.
Right, it would.
Does that get you 10 more feet?
10 more feet.
And there's nothing in the way. There's no buildings, no
At that
pool.
angle, you'd have to go quite a bit more to get 10. And you'd be into the walkway.
What's the walkway, like stone or
It's pavers.
Pavers, okay, that's easy to remove and replace, right?
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, anything you can do to get a little bit more distance. You know, you
yeah.
got 60 to 70, that's good.
The only thing with that is, I would guess that that's lower in elevation, that opposite corner towards, what's there, an arbor?
It looks like between the house and the pool, it's relatively flat. It's like, goes
Relatively.
total of 2 feet difference, I think, or 1.5 foot difference.
Yep. But you would be moving that corner into an area that is lower. So it'd be just a slight bit more filling, but it is possible. I think there's an underground electric there, so it parallels the walkway to the pool.
Yeah, the line there, yep.
Yeah.
Oh, underground,
Says
I
UE,
hadn't seen that.
Yeah, I mean, we could hug it as much as we can to increase the 70 to whatever we can gain by getting as
Yeah.
close to that as possible.
Never mind, with the electrical and the walkway and all that, you would have to move it
Yeah.
through that whole area. Okay, thank you. No more questions.
No?
So, so access to the septic, would it be around the house, in front of the garage for pumping and all that?
That would be for the tank installation. For the leach field, would have to come around the other side.
Because of the types of equipment you'd be using and the materials you'd be bringing in?
Yeah, it's, it would be nice if we could do everything off the driveway, but it's the slope that's
Too much.
on the other side of the tank, it's too steep to navigate with
So you're gonna have
equipment.
like bobcats or something digging in that 100-foot area, right?
Right, it would just make sense to excavate and kind of, bobcat it up and around to the front.
So the front is, if you had to store material on site, it would also be in the front yard?
I'm sorry?
If you had to store material on site while you're doing this?
If it was any material like topsoil that we could reuse, yeah.
Okay, or I was just even thinking septic system components, whatever, is.
Yeah, I mean, we do have a little bit of room between the system and the erosion control. That may be best for topsoil that could be easily then spread back over the system.
So would you, because that leads into a question I'd had, is, looking at the slopes, I was kind of curious why you didn't run erosion control from the lower corner of the barn over towards the property line?
Here?
Yeah, in terms of, if while this was in process, we had a significant rain event, would there be a risk of soils flowing around the barn?
Yeah, well, it always runs perpendicular to the contours.
Yeah, but
So
if
from
you're.
here,
Yeah, okay,
yep, from here, it's going to go this way.
okay,
To get over here, you can see the bend in this, so water's going, any water that hits here is going that way.
towards the barn.
This way, it's gonna come here and then bend. It's all gonna turn.
You think it's all gonna flow
yeah.
around the barn?
Yep, and the barn's gonna make its own
Yeah,
erosion control.
okay,
Yep. So there could be topsoil here, which would make sense,
so that's where
because
you
then it'd be
stage
easily
it.
pushed back over the system.
Mm-hmm.
If there's any, well, there will be excess material because the existing leach field is there. That would be trucked off-site.
Mm-hmm.
So because of the existing system, I don't see, other than topsoil, I don't see anything of benefit to be stockpiled, to be reused. It'll all be taken off-site. Once that's excavated, if there's material needed to get up to the level of the new leach field, then it's new Title V approved sand coming in.
So what you need to construct the new leach field would come in time to go into the ground? Okay,
Yep, it would, yeah, it'd be trucked and immediately put in
okay.
the excavation, not stockpiled.
Any other questions? Matt?
Nope. So-
Okay, so, any comments or questions from members of the audience? Okay, so this, I think what we're talking about here is maximum feasible compliance to a replacement for a failed septic. So this is conditional negative?
I don't have a condition. I mean,
The erosion control's already in place?
Yep.
Or on the plan? Okay. Can I have a motion to issue a negative determination of applicability?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. A negative determination is good.
Thank you for
In case-
explaining that.
In case Jeff didn't warn you.
Thank you.
He didn't, so.
It just means you don't have to do the next level of filing. Okay, moving on to our 7:20 PM agenda item, it's a public hearing for ZIS, 40 Newport Drive. Thank you.
Under Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Westford's non-zoning wetlands bylaw, Chapter 171, the Westford Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, October 25th, 2023, at 7:20 PM in Meeting Room 201 at Town Hall, 55 Main Street, to consider the request for determination of applicability application for Peter Ziss for the abandonment of an existing septic tank and installation of a new septic tank and leach field within 100 feet of bordering vegetative wetlands and bordering lands subject to flooding at 40 Newport Drive.
Good evening. Jeff Hannaford, representing the applicant at 40 Newport Drive. Newport Drive is adjacent to Nab Lake, and there's a significant wetlands that is associated with the lake, and that's in the rear of this particular lot. As you can see from the contours, there's a significant slope down to the wet area, something in the order of 20 feet or so in vertical difference, which is all treed. The existing system is to the back of the house now. You can see a shed. There's two sheds. The shed closer to the house, if you look at the lower right corner of the shed, the existing tank is actually partly under that shed, yes, and under the patio. So that's going to have to be pumped and filled in place in order to abandon that because of its location. So we're going to put in a new septic tank between the house and that shed. The existing leaching area is actually a deep leach pit just to the left of that shed. It's circular, as you can see. Again, that would have to be pumped and part of it filled in. The other part that's within 5 feet of the new leach field would get removed and replaced with Title V sand. These are great soil conditions. It's all good coarse sand or sand and gravel. And because of the difference in height I mentioned between the wetlands in this area, we're well above the water table. So that presents a situation where we know we're going to get good treatment from the bottom, from that effluent going down from the bottom of the leach field. But we did try to maximize to the best of our ability the distance. It's about 74 feet from the wetlands to the nearest corner. Fortunately, the way this house is built, the highest portion of the lot is up at the street. The back is not a walkout, but there's about 3 or 4 feet of foundation exposed in the rear, which means the cellar floor is only about 3 or 4 feet below grade. So because of that, we're able to move the leach field closer. The setback required for a cellar wall is 20 feet, but the setback to a slab is 10 feet. So what we have here actually is, because of the difference in grade from front to back, that leach field will actually be just below the basement floor in elevation. So that way, in that scenario, the basement floor is acting like a slab to the leach field. So we only have a 10-foot setback requirement. So we tried to hug that as best we could, and also have room to install and connect the new septic tank. Because of the shed, the septic tank does need and has been approved with a variance to less than 10 feet to the foundation. So we're trying to put everything into that corner as far from the wet as we can. We made the leach field a little wider as opposed to longer in this situation, again, to maximize the distance. The only thing that's problematic, and it really doesn't have anything to do with the wetlands, is the fact that currently there are 3 pipes exiting the house going to the septic tank. So they're going to have to remove a portion of that patio to expose those pipes, collect them together, and get them into the new septic tank. So other than that, right now, luckily, there is good access. Although they have a paved drive to the garage on the right, they do have a gravel drive on the left side of the house. So that's going to be the access point into the construction area. Again, any material that they can't reuse will be taken off-site. The only thing that may be stored, again, would be topsoil. So we do show erosion control to the rear of the construction area, from in the front of the rear shed all the way across and up around the corner a bit to, there's actually a fence shown there along that property line. You can see this just inside the lot line running here. Sorry about the wiggling. So it's going to come up right behind that corner of the fence and wrap around here to in front of that shed. So that should contain any runoff from the construction.
What do you pump the, you're gonna fill in the old tank? What do you pump in there? What are you gonna fill it in?
Where what?
What are you gonna fill it in with, the old tank?
Fill it? There's a couple of options. One of them is what they call a flowable fill. It's a slurry type of material, so as you put it in, it forms whatever void you're filling. It's that, or it could be crushed stone. Crushed stone will do the same as long as they have decent access to both ends. But it's mainly to fill the void as best as possible so that there can't be any settlement or cave-in
Right.
in the future that creates a safety problem. Yep.
As long as it's not toxic is, a concern. Nothing that's toxic or that could leach into the soil, or, if that thing breaks.
Right. Yeah, and it would be the same for that leaching pit.
Right.
Except that we're going to encroach on part of it. If we weren't encroaching on it, then they would remove the cover, pump it, and then fill it with it. It's usually easier because you can take the entire top off, would be to just fill it with soil. But septic tanks aren't that easy, so usually it's either you excavate it and break it and remove it completely, or you use that flowable fill or small sized crushed stone that flows easily into it.
Okay, thank you.
Do you know what's being stored in the back shed?
The one closest to
Yeah,
towards the lake.
towards the wetland.
Oh, I believe that is lawn equipment. The upper shed is, as you can see, it's connected to the various patios. What used to be, if you look on the drawing there, you'll see a triangle in a leader that says TBM, hub tack. That's a survey point, correct, and the benchmark for the construction. There used to be a pool in this area, so that was filled in. So the upper shed, I believe, was used for storing of the
Pool.
chairs, pool equipment, things like that, and the rear shed is lawnmower rakes, things.
Would gasoline be stored in that rear shed? Gasoline?
Or any
Other
any
kinds of
sort
fuels?
chemicals.
Good question, I don't know that. They do have a garage up, attached to the house, so if you wanted to condition that, any gasolines, oils, that, any petroleum products.
Petroleum products, pesticides,
Pesticides,
herbicides,
yeah, yeah.
all that kind of stuff should not be stored in that shed.
Yep,
Okay.
that's fair, yeah.
Any other questions from members?
One more, no trees are coming down anywhere, right?
No,
There's no contact?
no, that's all wide open lawn area right
And
there.
this is gonna
You can
recover-
see the tree line that just goes behind the back shed. Yeah.
Just gonna reseed that once you, you're just gonna reseed that once the leach field is
Yep.
in, right?
Yep, just the disturbed area.
Do you have any questions, Matt? Any comments or questions from members of the audience? So conditional negative? Can I have a motion to issue a conditional negative determination?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, moving on to our 7:25 PM agenda item. Continued public hearing for Fox River LLC, 0 and 210 Littleton Road.
Do you want to do the introduction then? Just
Yeah, that's fine.
You ready to go? All right, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good evening. Attorney Douglas DeShane representing the applicant, with me Kevin Riapelli from TG, our engineer on the property. You recall we were here a couple of meetings ago. We gave you our initial presentation on the proposed daycare facility, and we went over things. And then when we left, we were awaiting peer review of our stormwater management. I'm sorry to say we're still waiting the peer review for the stormwater management, but nevertheless, we were able to conduct a site visit. I understand members of the commission were there, as well as members of the
Planning board.
Planning board.
Correct.
And so there was some, at least some of you had an opportunity to see the site. And one of the other things that we talked about when we first met and presented was we were looking into the possibility of possibly moving some of our underground infiltration system so as to be able to preserve some trees, existing trees. And we did make quite the effort to do that. And I'm going to turn things over to Kevin and let him explain to you our analysis and what we were able to do or not do with respect to those trees. And then also follow up on some of the questions raised at the site visit with respect to landscaping and its landscape plan. And then we'll be respectfully asking for a continuance so that we can await receipt of the peer review so that we know our stormwater is okay. So quick presentation, and then we're happy to answer any questions and ask for a continuance. So with that, Kevin?
Thank you, Doug. Once again, Kevin Riapel, DGT Associates, Project Civil Engineer. As you'd stated, we were asked to look at potentially moving the 2 underground recharge systems a little bit closer to the wetland areas to potentially look at saving some of the existing trees on the property. What we did was an analysis, kind of a step-by-step process, which is what's represented in these 3 sketch plans. So sketch plan number 1 here simply shows the critical root zone for the 4 trees in question, noted with these large red circles here, and how they are within our current design. Very simple first sheet just to show that they are needing to be removed as this design currently shows. If Matt, you could go to the next sheet, please. So what we did was we moved the recharge systems, both of them, to be outside of the critical root zone of these trees. And what we found is that the grading in this part of the site is not just a function of the stormwater system. It's really driven by the grading within the driveway here. It all leads back to the underground septic system over here, which sets the grade in the parking lot, which we then have to tie back out to the existing roadway and tie back out into the existing driveway to bring back out to the office building off the property. What we found is we're actually raising the grade in the driveway right in here anywhere from 2 to 3 feet. Now what that means off the curbing is it's a little bit less. You're probably 18 inches to 2.5 feet at most in this part of the site. What that means is we can really only save 1 tree
by moving the stormwater system closer to the wetland area. What this move would also do is it would, have us working within the 50-foot buffer zone with some grading off the end of the system here. So unfortunately, even if we move the stormwater system over, we're still going to lose these 3 trees, unfortunately. So if you could go to sheet number 3. So what we're proposing to do is leave the stormwater system as designed, unfortunately lose these 4 trees, but we're proposing a series of new trees to be planted, some of them along the 50-foot buffer zone. When we had presented this to planning, they had commented that still within the buffer zone, if we could plant a couple along the front of the property, if there's an opportunity to plant 1 or 2 along the driveway to present more as a street tree as well. So I believe what this proposal is showing is to remove 4 trees and plant a total of 13 trees in this part of the site here, as mitigation for the removal of the existing trees. Which kind of leads me to my next point. I unfortunately wasn't at the site walk, but in speaking with Bert Corey from my office, who was there and who had discussions with Matt, the need for a landscape plan kind of came up, not only from conservation, but as well as planning. So what we're going to do is we're going to incorporate these plantings here, the renaturalization areas, as well as some of the other plantings that planning had talked about during the site walk, into an overall site landscape plan that's going to be submitted to both planning and to the commission here. We're working on that now. We had just got authorization from the owner today, so we're going to get moving on that as soon as possible, and as soon as we have that plan, it will be submitted.
Matt, I think for the record, since this is
Yeah,
recorded.
I was the only, I attended.
No members of the
Yeah,
commission were
correct, yeah.
actually there.
Everyone did.
Oh,
So-
I'm
It was
sorry.
just Matt, I believe.
I wasn't there
Yeah.
either, so.
Okay, well, but just, is because
Yep.
we're live on TV and
Yep.
there will be minutes, it's important to be accurate. Okay. So with that area inside the 50-foot,
Yep.
you're talking landscape plans, because originally, I think the first time there was talk about that being, more of a natural meadow, maybe mowed once a year.
Correct, so that's gonna all be spelled out on the landscape plan
Okay.
as well. Seed mix, maintenance mowings, it's probably mowing once a year, just to keep the woody overgrowth down, and promote more of a natural.
And is there, so outside that area, is it grass as well, or is that actually shrubs, trees, natural vegetation between that area and the wetlands?
It is all natural shrubs and trees between this area and the wetland, yes. So this area in this little stippled,
That thing?
that is now just maintained lawn today. It's
Okay.
actually mowed lawn space today. So
So-
we're proposing to no longer mow that as a regular lawn and
Eh,
plant it.
Yeah, and I guess, the question that I have is why, would we want that to revegetate to trees, shrubs, et cetera, rather than, if it's not gonna be maintained lawn, is there a reason to keep it, meadow-like vegetation versus let it become woodland? And the reason I bring that up is because where I go walking and I've seen meadows that are maintained, I see more and more invasive species, Japanese hops, bittersweet, and a lot of other things that you can't really deal with just by annual mowing. And so
Sure.
some of it is, do we let that go woodland instead? Just, if the short question is there a reason to have it be meadow-like as opposed to becoming woodland again? And it doesn't, that's the question, I don't need an answer now.
Okay, yeah,
but
no,
that's
well, I
what-
mean, we can
Well,
cer- yeah.
we'd certainly like your thoughts,
Yeah.
though, because
Yeah,
we're
I
gonna,
like the not keeping it a meadow, but letting it renaturalize as forest.
because we're gonna put those trees that'll sort of delineate the area that's either gonna be.
Yeah.
So if we just let it grow, I don't think our client would have any problem at all, and one less maintenance item
No, but
to be done.
I mean, I like the idea of a landscape plan because, well, if that area is not being invasives often come in when ground gets disturbed. So if
Right.
that area is not being disturbed, then then maybe we don't have to
Pull up
worry
the
about
grass and
invasives
plant it.
moving in.
You don't have to, no. Yeah, we could just plant right over the
I was
grass
gonna
in that
say,
area. We're not gonna
do you
tear the
usually
area
scrape
out.
the grass out, no, and plant, just
No.
plant over the grass?
Or I
We
would say
won't-
plant
then
over the
we
grass.
won't be
with the trees.
disturbing it at all.
Yeah, it just, okay, well, let's see where this goes.
Okay,
Okay.
that's what you'd like.
Yep.
Well, I mean, that's me, I don't know what.
No, I
other-
meant,
And
if that's what the
plantings
commission
provide a great
feels.
barrier there too,
Yeah,
a marker.
okay,
And bind the soil better too.
yeah,
It'll bind the soil better too.
the trees and shrubs.
Yeah, as well as, you know, if people use chemicals on grass, they won't be using that.
Well, yeah, we could tell them no chemicals in the buffer
They do that
zone.
anyway, yes.
Matt, do you have any questions?
I do not.
Any comments or questions from members of the audience?
So I
Okay,
do have one more item that I'd just like to quickly bring up. I know there is an outstanding order on number
Oh, yeah.
210. We have done some investigations. Our office has found that what was permitted as part of that original order, we haven't found anything. It wasn't actually built that way. The owner is under the same impression, although he bought the property after that order was issued. He's actually having his property manager go there tomorrow to do one last investigation. If we get confirmation tomorrow that there is no installations done, we're gonna be filing a request for COC that none of the work was done. So we can close out that existing order
okay,
and get that cleaned
I
up.
forgot about that.
okay.
Yeah, and that's it for me.
So when would you want to be before us next?
I think we were thinking the November 8th,
November 8th, okay.
please.
Can I have a motion to continue the public hearing till November 8th?
So move.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Well, thank you for your time. We'll see you in a few weeks.
Thank you.
Very much. Okay, moving on to our 7:30 PM agenda item, continued public hearing and issue order of conditions for Madon, 6 Fletcher Lane.
I am the representative here for 6 Fletcher Lane. Just a quick overview of the project since last time. It is just for the replacement of this patio section here, the walkways. The new patio section is going to include a spa as well as an outdoor kitchen. And additionally, it is for the removal of an invasive species plant bed there to be replaced with native species. And that's around roughly 200 square feet of plantings that's proposed in that area there. Since last time, the real main changes was we changed the siltation barrier to straw bales with a fence behind. And I wanted to make a couple clarifications from last time. On the southwest corner there, right down here, there is plants there. They are invasives that are there, just kind of popped up. That's why they've been kind of trimming them down so they don't get too out of control. And as well, there was a little bit of worry about runoff. The client did tell me that the entire perimeter of his property, the perimeter of the dwelling there itself does have gravel with a drip edge. So the runoff from the house is semi-controlled. And additionally, the gazebo it looks like it was not necessarily on the initial permit, but it looks like it was there it was not there in 2001, but the patio was there, and then in 2005 it was there. I additionally did find, and I sent it to Matthew, I wasn't able to print it out in time, but in 2003, it does look like the gazebo was also there. The certificate of compliance was closed out in 2003. So I would say that, you know, if sidewalk was done, I would feel like there was some sort of knowledge about the gazebo, even though it may not have been expressly talked about in any legal document that was recorded at all. But it does look like it was there around the same time as the certificate of compliance was closed out. So it seems to me like it probably was known about, but it's been there for 20 years now. And the current owner, it was there when he bought the house, so he wasn't aware of anything really wrong with it at all. Just bought the house, and there was happened to be a nice little gazebo in the patio area. Other than that, I'm happy to hear if the town has any additional comments or anything on it.
So the only action being taken on the invasives is in that little planting bed, but not along the water's edge?
Yeah, I did speak with the homeowner and the landscape architect, and they said they're more than happy to replace that area there. Basically remove the invasives and replace it with natives.
You mean along the pond edge? Or?
Right along, because this is where there is vegetation.
Okay.
So right along that area, that's where the invasives are.
Okay.
So they're more than happy to remove those and replace those with native plantings, because that means they no longer have to maintain it to ensure that those invasives don't get out of control. They can just have those natives there and happy.
I think I'll speak only for myself. I would like to see the invasive removed and replaced with a native vegetation, because then you also don't have a future homeowner potentially deciding to use pesticides on them. So.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Sure.
What's the name of the native plant trust or something? What?
Yeah, it's the Native Plant Trust, and again, I don't know,
Native Plant Trust, okay.
when the landscape plan, I think it's to be provided later, during, when, I think there is a condition.
But that ought to be your source, the Native Plant Trust for what?
Yeah, I use that all the time. They're great.
Okay.
I send that to all my clients, that big list. I feel like that's the easiest to look at.
Mm-hmm. Matt, any other questions?
No.
Are there any comments or questions from members of the audience? Okay. So, there were also orders of conditions in our packet. Have people had a chance to review them?
Yes.
Okay. Any comments or questions? Or actually, are there any modifications or changes? Okay, so can I have a motion to issue the order of conditions?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Moving on to our 7:35 PM agenda item, it's a public hearing for Kester, 27 Leland Road.
Under Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Westford's non-zoning wetlands bylaw, Chapter 171, the Westford Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, October 25th, 2023, at 7:35 PM in Meeting Room 201, at Town Hall, 55 Main Street, to consider the notice of intent application of Hayo Coaster for installation of a water level flow control device, a beaver deceiver, and breaching a beaver dam within land under waterway and bordering land subject to flooding at 27 Leland Road.
Good evening, Matt Waterman with Land Tech Consultants. Also here with me tonight is Hayo Kester. And we're here tonight for a notice of intent application for, as was just read, for a water level control device, better known as a beaver deceiver. I'm sure the commission is familiar with this technology. It's to help regulate the water levels near beaver dams that are causing problems, flooding issues in particular. Hayo lives at 65 Providence Road, which is down at the bottom of Providence Hill. And I don't know any of the crossroads near there. I should know. I grew up right near there, but Hayo is on the Providence Road side, and then the property where the dam is causing issue actually has access on Leland Road. So it's down by the end of Providence Road. That's behind the Whitney's gas station, heading towards 495. It's the headwaters to the Tadmuck Brook. The parcel, and you can see this is the highlighted parcels are the two yellow parcels. The Kesters live at 65, which is on the right-hand side, and then the vacant parcel, which is owned by the same owner as 27 Leland Road, is the Chaplain Realty Trust. Hayo has been working with them to get permission to install the water level control device. We went out, the area, it's a shallow marsh, is associated with the Tadmuck Brook. There is a lot of resource areas in this area. It's a large, shallow marsh. There's bordering vegetated wetland. There's a 100-year floodplain. It does have a flood study done by FEMA. There's a floodway associated with Tadmuck Brook. There's a river associated with Tadmuck Brook. But we're not in a natural heritage endangered species program habitat area, and there's no certified vernal pools within about 500 to 800 feet. There are some further north, but not near us. The water level control device, it's basically a permanent water bypass. It's installed in the dam, and there's a little insert so that the water stays buried and the beavers can't quite figure out how the water's draining, and it allows the water levels to be maintained as they would normally be. It's currently flooding the Kester's house, and we've submitted some pictures. And here's an example. That's a good example of the beaver deceiver. You can see the dam, thank you, Matt, is on the right-hand side. The pipe lays down under the water, and then the inlet is about 40 feet away with a screened, wildlife, to keep the wildlife out, the beavers, and then it helps maintain the water levels. The flood study for this area, it kind of ends right at this brook. And just above on the screen, you can see this is from the profile from the flood study. The elevation for the base flood elevation is about 228, 227.8. The water levels, they don't give you, of course, a water level, but they give you the 10-year storm. So we came in just under the 10-year storm at 225 for a estimated height of the wetland. Obviously, if we get permission and this was to be installed, they would be working with the manufacturer of the beaver deceiver who's licensed with installing this technology. And there would be minor adjustments made for that water level. But right now, based on the profile, we're anticipating to put it just below that 10-year storm event at elevation 225. But that could get adjusted a little bit just in the field. Access would be through the Kester's property at 65 Providence Road. We don't anticipate any heavy equipment. They would be bringing this in. They'd be installing it with waders. There would obviously be some work on the dam to bring it down a little bit. We're not going to breach the dam and let it go all at once or anything like that. It would be done in conjunction with installing the water level control device, and then kind of dismantling the beaver dam to below flood elevation. Board of Health, Hayo was working with the Board of Health to try and get an emergency permit. They've done a couple inspections. I don't know if you got the email, but we did I put together just a summary of the health agent's report, and he was out there at the beginning of October, and then just about a week ago, or a little less than a week ago, and you can see I don't know, is that a tomato plant, or? So there's a tomato plant that's highly guarded with a deer protection there, but you can see where the water level has risen in the last, 2 weeks. That's just 2 weeks. And so the Board of Health didn't deem it an emergency just because it's not, impacting the house immediately, but obviously Mr. Kester and his wife are concerned of the impacts of it continuing to creep towards the house. And we thank the Board of Health. They've been very helpful. But in that pit photo, it shows it rising about anywhere from 6 to 12 inches is our best guess. And then that's the dam on the left, and it's not as good a picture. It's looking down on it. And then this one on the right is kind of a more, you can visualize the dam better with the photo on the right. And the beavers have been busy for the last couple weeks. So, and there is a hut out there, or a hutch. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. So there is an active, den that they're living. So if you're happy to answer any questions, I know Hayo's here. He's been putting a lot of work into this. He did a lot of work with the application. We kind of came in to help support with some of the more technical sides of the application, but he'd be happy to answer any questions as well.
Okay, Jim?
Do you know who you're gonna use for doing the installation of the deceiver?
Yeah. I have a proposal from, so you got a lot of stuff here.
Is it Beaver Solutions, perhaps?
No.
Okay. I was just gonna say, if it was.
I went to Beaver Solutions first.
Okay.
And they're not they're unavailable, they're busy.
Oh.
And
That's pretty much who we use.
couldn't help us this year. So Beaver Solutions recommended this firm.
Oh, okay.
I have to get out my glasses here to find it.
I was just gonna say, we've used Beaver Solutions in the past, and for a small fee, they'll come back every year, inspect the device, and if needed, repair or replace parts. So I mean,
Yeah,
we've taken advantage of that several times in our properties.
Yeah, Beaver Solutions maintaining the level devices which are on both town and private property, I believe.
Yes. Yeah.
They're still doing that, right?
Yep, yep.
Yeah, they're a good outfit.
Okay. Well,
I talked to,
but they're not taking on any new work. All right, well, good luck.
I talked to the fellow in charge, he's a real nice guy. Callahan, Mike Callahan.
Yeah. Yep, that's the guy.
Well, anyway, I talked to him again, but they just can't do it. They're short of personnel.
Right.
There's so many beavers. Beaver population has grown immensely, especially in our area. There are beavers everywhere. I think we had the Board of Health approved something not too long ago.
Another alternative is hire a licensed trapper, or become a licensed trapper and get rid of the beavers.
We've been wanting to avoid that.
I understand.
That's the beaver deceiver all about, is so we can avoid, especially my dear wife who's in the back, on the Conservation Trust and loves animals, okay? So that's the last resort.
Yeah.
So you've got an alternate installer.
Yeah.
Do they also?
I just found.
Best Way Wildlife Control.
Okay.
Best Way Wildlife Control. Humane, ethical, dependable, etc.
Okay.
That's who.
Would they also do, come back and do inspections, et cetera, so that?
The contract includes a fee to, what is it called here?
Yeah, the annual maintenance.
A maintenance fee,
Okay.
yeah.
So we're looking at a solution.
Optional maintenance plan through the overall, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay.
Then usually do these annually, but then if it has to be done more often, you have to pay each time they come up.
Okay.
And
Anyone else have questions?
No.
Matt, do you have any questions?
Nope, no DP file number was issued as of,
I just checked and I didn't see one.
yeah,
Okay.
this afternoon, so.
Okay, so that's one of the things that's, we need that before we can actually issue order of conditions and close?
Yep, but I can draft special conditions for the commission's consideration at their next meeting.
Okay. Any comments or questions from members of the audience? If you come up and let us know who you are and what your comment or question is?
Io had his hand up too.
Okay, yeah. Okay. Hi.
Hi, my name is Charlene Vanuka. I live at 71B Providence Road. I'm probably the biggest land abutter to 65 Providence Road and to the house on Leland Road and all the other houses. And I'm wondering if we're going to move the beavers out of that area or deceive them or do whatever we have to do to get them out, if we're not going to physically get them out. What's the chances that, because beavers like water, what's the chances they're going to move the less than 100 feet backwards, which is my land, which is all full of water too, which was in the pictures that Matt sent me.
Okay, so, so when you say 71 Providence. so that-
71B, there's two houses, A and B, and
Okay.
A's not, doesn't abut this land at all.
Okay,
Okay, you see the big, yeah.
okay.
It's the one with the CRs on it.
Oh, okay.
Okay, the yellow ones are the 65, 67, 69, and there's 71B, so my land goes across. You know, I'm just concerned if the beavers are gonna come down the wetlands if we don't move the beavers.
So if we put this in, which will bring the water level of the wetland back down to what it was, is there a location where the beavers could say, okay, well, you know, let me start building an
Relocate further south.
further, oh, so further back into the wetland?
Yeah.
Which is my land.
Yeah.
I, in my experience, they would, if they were to relocate, they would move more so even to the other side, the southerly side of Drawbridge.
Oh, okay.
Because the entire, I mean, that,
I see
in order for
Drawbridge
them
at the
to dam
bottom.
up the wetland, they would need to, you know, that would
That's
be
quite
a very substantial dam, where more often than not, they're trying to find a narrow point, you know, either.
They would
They're
just
looking for running
go
water.
Right,
back
yeah.
through my
Makes the
land to get
noise.
there.
Yeah,
Kind of,
I don't
and
think they would,
wouldn't stop. Okay.
for, I think they would continue on,
I
in my
understand that you
experience.
want the mood, I just, you know, I wondered if we just considered other places we could move the beavers,
No-
considering.
Nobody's
Drew's-
gonna line up to get them.
Well, and
Drew's Crossing
and who's
has
gonna make them
three-
stay there?
3 of them there, and Tadmuck
Yeah.
Road has 1, large. That's all I know.
Okay.
Okay, thank
So-
you.
So if they get it into their head to build a new dam, what Matt is saying is they will go look for a narrower place.
But they'll have to come down through the land,
Yeah,
through the water.
they'll just, yeah, they'll swim across and go farther upstream, I guess. Is that
They're
upstream or
actually gonna
downstream?
swim down,
Upstream.
across my property, across.
Yeah,
Okay, so
Okay.
you kind of, this machine thing that we're putting in is going to drive the beavers out.
no, it will not. It will just, what it will do is it will return the water level behind the dam to what it was before. It'll just have a way that hopefully they don't even notice
It
that
regulates the
water's-
water level so that if the
Okay.
beavers continue to build more wood and mud and stuff on their dam, the water level doesn't rise. The water,
could-
the water
Oh, okay.
level stays where it is, no matter how big a dam the beavers may build.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Ohio, you had something, you wanted to make another comment, or?
I didn't quite understand about the issue that we had.
No, we would have to continue anyways. Typically, with the commission, they need they need time to draft the order conditions, so. They're saying they're gonna draft the order conditions, and then we'll wait and hopefully have the file number in time for the next meeting.
So we have to wait till the next meeting.
Yes. That we
We don't have a
can-
choice.
At this point,
We don't have a choice.
it's been registered with the state until the state gives us a number that we can issue the order against. We can't complete the process.
Meanwhile, my basement could flood.
We know.
And if it gets closer, call the health department,
And
you
it
know,
becomes an
for,
emergency.
for an emergency, you know, for them to determine whether it's an emergency situation.
And
monitor
has the health department given you criteria that they say will,
No, I mean, I think that I think it's not, for lack of a better word, judgment call, but they come out if it's directly impacting a structure.
Okay.
At this point, they felt like it was still far enough away, but Sam, the agent, did come back out and he documented it, and we'll use him as a tool in the tool belt if we need to.
Okay, and just,
In the
you know,
meantime.
and at this point, we're waiting for the state, so it's.
If it gets worse, call Sam again.
Yeah, call Sam.
Call
We're
them.
ready to issue, but, you know, we are dependent on the state for issuing that file number, so if it gets into a current situation, yes, you know, reach out to the Board of Health and see if we can get,
Yeah, and legally, we have to wait.
Okay, which means this contractor,
I'm Mrs. Kester, I'm one of the homeowners for this property here. I would like for you to know that there are a lot of beautiful trees around this marshland. And currently now they're all flooded. And I'm concerned about all these trees are gonna be, their roots are gonna get rotten, we're gonna lose all these trees. They're just too nice. We're trying to grow trees, and these beavers are gonna kill them. So I think we should get something as soon as possible, because it's just a mess back there.
Matt, is there anything that DEP has indicated what's holding it up?
I haven't even seen it in the
No, I haven't either.
So I can follow up with them and, you know,
Yeah.
figure out whether they need more information, if they need more information, but to certainly have a
Yeah, if
file
they need
number.
more information, we can get in touch with Matt and get that moving.
Could he call the vendor and tell them, be ready, like, you know, second week of November potentially?
well, the vendor's been standing by and is planning to start on the 31st.
If we,
And there's a time when it'll come where it'll be too cold or frozen that you can't install this thing. Okay, so
if we issue the order of
Right.
conditions, is there an appeal period?
Could the Board of Health
Yes,
make
but
it
they
happen sooner?
can,
They can
they can proceed at their own risk, so.
Okay.
You know, so it's, you know, and if DEP hasn't issued any comments and there hasn't been, you know, no
Okay.
comment from the public, which needs to be addressed, I don't see there being.
can you make it conditional on getting that number we need from
Well, we
DEP?
need, so,
I don't think they can.
so the
I
way
think
the
they're
process
legally-
works is when we approve your project, we do it with conditions that talk, you know, that basically lay out all the things that, the conditions under which we agree the project can move forward. And so Matt needs to draft those conditions, and we need an opportunity to review them, and give our feedback if there's, you know, if there's additional, information or changes that we want. We need the time to do that so that we can then issue them at our next
But if
meeting.
anything happens in between, you know, that hurries up the process, you can return here and we have some kind of an emergency.
Well, and that's where they go through the Board of
And
Health.
the Board of Health would be the ones to trigger that.
We've been talking to Mr. Fontaine, and he even came out Friday again.
Uh-huh.
And he took a measurement about how much it'll have to grow. It's
But
about-
if you're worried, you know, down the road, a day or two or something, and more
Well, he
happens.
even gave me an emergency number to call in case it gets close.
Okay, but call them
then-
again, because it's through that department that would speed up.
Okay. I
Okay?
understand.
That's the only avenue other than what we're suggesting we have to go through. That could speed it up. If he felt that it was an, you know, an emergency.
Then we
Okay.
have to find somebody to do to take care of
I
it.
understand that, but what I'm saying is for the logistic of time, you know, that's the avenue you'd have to go.
Guess there's nothing else I can do, but I do.
Doing everything right,
I
Hayo, it's
do
just.
appreciate your feedback, and I'd like to especially thank Matthew Salem in helping me get as far as I could to the point where we engaged Land Tech to help. It's a huge disappointment that we didn't get approval tonight.
Yeah, we can't fix that, we wish we could.
And I don't understand why you can't make it conditional on getting one number from the state.
Because because part of our approval is that order of conditions which gets recorded at the Registry of Deeds. And it gets into the whole legal process. It protects you that if somebody questions what you're having done, this order of conditions, et cetera, authorizes the work that's proposed, and we need those conditions to, to basically, that becomes the words that authorize the work to proceed.
Well, thank you for your time and
Welcome.
consideration.
It's sooner rather than further.
I'm gonna have to find another place to live as a backup.
Hopefully not.
Okay.
Motion to continue.
So motion to continue the public hearing until November 11th? I mean, November 8th, sorry.
So moved.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. We'll be in touch tomorrow if you have any questions. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to our 7:45 PM agenda item. It's a discussion of enforcement order compliance, logins at 5 Cloverleaf Lane.
Hi there.
Hello.
So the first item, the enforcement order.
Okay.
I know you had a kind of thought.
Excuse me, can we ask you to take that in the hall?
Can you, excuse me? Can you please leave? We're trying to finish up the rest of the meeting.
Yeah, I have to get my daughter at 9.
Yeah, so, an enforcement order was issued back in May, for work, for the removal of vegetation within, 50 feet of a wetland resource. This was associated with the construction of the house at 5 Cloverleaf Lane. I was out there Monday and documented the existing conditions. The property owners have allowed the area to the rear of their property within the buffer to renaturalize, and certainly it was hard to find the conservation posts. I circled them on the photos I took because they've now been grown in sufficiently. Also, I do know as a portion of the subsequent RDA application, the property owners are looking to plant native species for screening and just to supplement the buffer area. So I know that was a point of, there were trees and shrubs that were, or thinner saplings, thank you. It's a long day. That were removed. And I think overall, again, this area was previously cleared as a portion of the horse farm, and so increasing this area with some more substantial trees and shrubs, again, tying it in with screening for the upcoming, I think it would overall be a net benefit to the buffer.
So now, the clearing that happened was actually beyond the erosion control?
Yes, and beyond the no disturb signs, the posts.
The posts, okay. Now, was the erosion control supposed to be the limit of disturbance so that the woodlands beyond that was going to be left?
Yes, I mean, you can, in this photo, the first photo, the remnants of the erosion controls and the limit of work is shown here. And so there was certainly a substantial buffer to the wetland resources outside these were installed at the 50-foot limit to the wetland. And so, yes, the erosion controls were to be the limit of work.
And the limit of clearing.
Yeah, and the limit of clearing. But again, this was previously cleared, it's now just kind of meadow habitat.
Any members of the commission have any comments or questions? So I think with the enforcement order the intent is that to resolve the issues, we're waiting for the landscape plan that's going to go along with.
Yeah, a planting plan associated with the, and I did provide the homeowner the couple links to the Native Plant Trust, Go Botany, and Weston Nurseries to kind of choose their screening, native species for screening, but also to supplement the area around the pool.
Okay. So these markers were originally what was proposed to delineate the no disturb zone as part of the subdivision development?
Yes.
Given what's happened, do you think those markers are sufficient, or do we need to look at augmenting them?
I think the markers are sufficient. There was a deficiency in the developer providing the notice to the homeowner,
What these are all about?
That in the deed, and which has been rectified, and legal documents have been.
Okay, so people will know going forward.
Right.
Okay.
The remainder of the existing homeowners now, it wasn't done at the time in May, but shortly thereafter in June, it had been resolved.
So everybody's now aware. Okay. No comments? Okay. Any comments or questions from the audience? Okay, so moving on to the public hearing for Loggins 5 Cloverleaf Lane.
Under Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Westford's non-zoning wetlands bylaw, Chapter 171, the Westford Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, October 25th, 2023, at 7:45 p.m. in Meeting Room 201 at Town Hall, 55 Main Street, to consider the request for determination of applicability application of Julie Loggins for installation of an in-ground pool, fencing, and accompanying landscaping, portions of which are within 100 feet of bordering vegetative wetlands at 5 Cloverleaf Lane.
And describe your
request. Yes, I'm Julie Loggins. I'm the homeowner at 5 Cloverleaf Lane. And we'd like to build a pool for our family.
Was there an updated one that also showed the fence?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Although it's kind of scratchy. So, whereas the pool and associated fencing are greater than 50 feet to the wetland resources, the commission may consider this a minor activity under 310 CMR 10.2 2B 2E. In the previous photos and walking the site earlier this week, that area is actually in a depression, so it would.
The area. So when you say the area.
The proposed pool is
Okay, it's in a low spot.
Yeah, in the low spot of the site.
Okay.
Previously, from, again, back to the horse farm days, I imagine, something was removed, and so actually, any erosion would have to go up gradient to get to any of the wetland resources nearby.
Okay. Members of the commission have any questions?
We spoke of this before the meeting, but no backwashing. It's a cartridge filter system.
Correct.
Okay, so no backwashing, no flooding. Okay, good. And where will the pool chemicals be kept? Like chlorine tablets or whatever you're going to use?
Yes, we're using a saltwater generator.
Oh, it's a saltwater pool.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, because there's no real scale here. One of the things I was looking at was the fence. I can't tell really how close the edge of the pool is to the edge of the trail easement. It looks, I guess I'm not having a good feel for how much space is there between the edge of the trail easement and the fence the fence to the pool, or the edges of that you're showing for the pool.
When we had it surveyed, I tried to keep everything within the 75 Cause the 100-foot goes straight through my house.
Yeah,
No, I'm.
the trail easement, I think.
Yeah, I'm just kind of wondering, that all looks really close together, and so I'm kind of trying to, I don't know whether there's, you know, this plant, whether there's 10 feet between the edge of the pool outline and the easement, or whether it's, you know, it just.
How far would you like it to be?
I'm just, no, what I'm really interested in is what you're looking to do. So it's just, is the fence gonna be right next to the trail easement?
I would like it to be.
Can it,
It's just an easement, so it doesn't need to meet, in my opinion, because it's an easement, it doesn't need to meet any setbacks. You know, they could have a fence.
no, and and I think, I'm just thinking logistically with the easement is, do you wanna allow yourself a foot or two?
Right, I mean, I think that would, I mean,
Okay.
it can't be in the easement.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if it's, you know, a foot and a half.
Yeah.
You know, I think one condition, you know, and if the, commission, may, you know, outside of, you know, kind of having a proposed list and kind of quantity of landscape, of the, plantings proposed, you know, rough sketch of kind of the area, and also, you know, condition, you know, have a as-built provided at the end. Typically, there's one required for the building department, to make sure that all zoning setbacks have been, you know, there's no encroachments of pools into places where they shouldn't be. But having that just provided to our office to add to the file so that we can verify that. But that would, you know, if,
that was kind of what I was thinking. And also, the filing had talked about accompanying planting, and it wasn't clear whether whether you wanted to do plantings around the pool or plantings, again, like we talked about in the previous topic, you know, getting into, deeper into the buffer zone. So I was, I guess, what I would find helpful is just an outline of where on this plan you're looking for plantings, because if, you know, if it's just what was talked about earlier, that's fine. If you're thinking about plantings within the 75-foot, it helps us have a clearer picture of what you intend to do.
Yeah, I had talked with Matthew that I would give him, after we kind of got a rough
Okay.
draw of the plans on what we were planting and where about. That's kind of where my head is at right now.
Okay. Everybody's quiet. Any comments or questions from the audience? So this is a notice of intent, so we need.
it's a request
Oh,
for deter,
or-
but we could condition, you know, in order to get a planting plan, you know, continue it to the commission's next meeting.
And get the planting.
Yeah, and
That
get
way, in
everything.
case we want to have you know, if you have questions or we want to get into details about, you know, if something, when we see the planting plan, if questions come up, and Matt's given you the resource to use for native plantings?
Yes.
Okay. So, continuation.
November 8th?
Yeah, continue, so can I have a motion?
I don't know yet.
Another question?
No.
No, okay. Can I have a motion to continue to November 8th?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. So then you'll get the planting plan to Matt before then. We'll have a chance to review it, and we'll be able to wrap everything up at the next meeting,
Okay.
Which
which
will be
is November 8th.
Okay. So no pool.
Oh, no, it just,
Oh, okay.
it is, at the next meeting, we'll see the planting plan. If we have any questions or any feedback, and at that point, we would issue our determination that says, yes, you know, this is how yes, you can build your pool.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
we just, I'm sorry. It just, yeah, it's seeing what the planting plans are. We like to have a complete idea what you're planning, and then we say, okay, we understand the whole project, and now we approve. Okay?
It was continued, I think.
Yeah, okay, so we'll see you on the 8th. Okay, and moving on to our other 7:45, no, I'm sorry. We're moving on to our 7:50 PM agenda item. A request to install historical marker at Freedom Park. I'm very sorry, thank you for waiting so patiently.
You know, when
sat on that side, I got used to it. I'm Jeff Hall, for those of you who don't know me, private citizen. But I'm here on behalf of the Westford Historical Society. A few years back, we did a walking tour of Forge Village. And Marilyn Day and I, were working on the research of the area, came across some history about a Mr. Francis Sullivan, who was brought up and lived, whose house was located that we now know as Freedom Park. And Mr. Sullivan went to work for a congressman in Connecticut during the 1920s, and then went to work for the American Legion. When the Second World War broke out, he and others within the American Legion designed legislation that they presented before the Armed Services Committee in 1943, and I believe Edith North Rogers from Lowell was on that committee, and she might have been the chair at the time, and had been working with veterans for years. Well, the basis of what he presented and what the American Legion presented, along with Mr. Sullivan, became known as the GI Bill of Rights. And so I said, at the time, my God, you know, here we are in Freedom Park, dedicated to veterans, and we don't recognize this individual who probably had what to do with one of the major pieces of legislation that I think helped create the middle class in this country, and gave veterans something that they deserve for their service. So I went to Linda Green at the time. I said, this would be an excellent Eagle Scout project. And so she ran it by a few Eagle Scouts, and they went on to other things. So after 2 or 3 years, I said, it's time. Let's pick up the ball and run with it. So we're proposing at Freedom Park, and I have a picture of kind of what, Matt, you might want to hand that. This is what you see. There's a monument on Littleton Common, and that's what it's going to look like with a bronze slate on the top. Going to be about 3 feet tall and about 18 inches wide. And the question of where it would go, when you look at Freedom Park from this photo, okay, and you were down there with us, Margaret, we initially talked about putting it in the center area. When we met with the Monument Committee, they were concerned that, well, if it's going to be sticking up out of the ground in the middle and people will walk, particularly when the veterans do their Memorial Day service, someone might trip. So we're talking about moving it close where that flower pot is, and the...
There, you've actually, the thing on the table in front of you is a mark, no, that looks like a black pen.
Oh.
That's a...
Don't look at it.
It's a laser.
Okay, so right about there, right next to, we're talking about right next to where the walkway is there. And the monument would go right about there. Okay? Any questions?
Sounds like a great idea.
Yep.
We had met with Matt a couple of weeks ago, and my friend, Marisha Taylor, who is a neighbor, talked about some of the concerns we had. Margaret, you were there at the time. We're concerned about the maintenance of the area. What you see in those pictures are the houses. Well, the one at the top was from around 1900. That's Pond Street. And the one down at the end is probably the Sullivan house. It burnt in 1943. Mr. Sullivan, Francis's father, died in that fire. When it became Freedom Park, my concern as a historian was that Sullivan Shore, which was known as for years, kind of went in the background, and you wouldn't know that. So as you enter Freedom Park, there's a sign that says Freedom Park, and I would like to, with the blessing of this board and whoever else needs to, is see that Sullivan Shore gets recognized. Freedom Park at Sullivan Shore, and just give a little background. I'm willing to go to the art department of Westford Academy and work with them and see if I can get a student to put something up as part of a sign.
So would you have that sign, because there's the parking area,
When you enter off of Pond Street,
which is up, yeah, up at the top.
there's Pond Street, okay? And right there is where the sign is.
Okay,
So it's just a sign saying Freedom Park.
yeah, Nathan, what's his name?
You, no.
But yeah, I know the scout that
Yeah,
did the sign.
Okay, so it says Freedom Park. What I'm saying is, it's been kind of worn, that concerns me, you know, there's been no maintenance to it over the years. But we could put something down the bottom, or make another sign that says Freedom Park at Sullivan Shore.
Okay.
So that the history of the area is maintained.
Okay, and actually, so design it so that it's better able to withstand the elements, or,
Like I said, I would work with the art department at Westford Academy and try to get ideas from there, but that's something I'd like to see also.
okay. Yeah, because in our conversation, the four of us, just to update the commission, is what you see here is the plan, a two-phase plan for a project back in 2000, that was approved in 2006,
2006, yeah. Nicholas Reed did that.
Yeah, and actually Paul Sterrett's signatures on some of the plans as well. But, you know, this was what was envisioned. Parts of it got built over time. Parts of it never got completed. I don't think, Matt, you were out. And the shrubs along the property line
Yeah,
with
so-
number 9.
Yeah, this is kind of, this photo is looking at 9 Pond Street, the parking
The
lot.
fence falling down. Okay.
And, you know, so the plan as envisioned in 2006 had a central lawn area, some native plantings, some native plantings with which they call out kind of along that westerly property line with 9 Pond Street. They also proposed a wildflower seed mix within the buffer to act as a buffer to a naturalized buffer to the water body. And
Did that ever happen?
portions of it have, you know, the fishing pier down here is located kind of at the end of the pavement. The pavement, you know, was proposed to remain, you know, to allow access down to the water, you know, accessible access to the water. But it only goes, it stops about, I don't know, 60
goes about
feet from the, yeah, it goes about halfway. And so, you know, in discussion with Mr. Hall regarding the Memorial Day services with which they hold down there, having a stable access to the water to lay the wreath, you know, would be a
Well, and the other thing that, you know, looking back at the plan, there was talk about native seed mix, so that there would be a naturalized buffer between the edge of the pond and the walkway. And then there would be another area that was maintained lawn for you know, for people to congregate, stuff like that. And elements of those plans never got completed. One of the things that Matt and I had identified is if we're gonna partner with the DPW to keep the area that's supposed to be mowed in accessible mode, we need to do something that delineates where they mow and where they don't mow. So it was just, there were some really great visions, and pieces of it just never got completed, and so some of it is okay, how do we come up with the next steps to get those parts of the plan completed? The other thing is, and I think Marisha can probably speak to this, is when this was all planned, it was a very small neighborhood. Abbott Mills apartments are now fully occupied. People love coming over here. So some of it's also getting much more extensive use than I think people ever thought it would. So, you know, we want to kind of get it to completion.
In the maintenance of it, it was kind of, it was whose responsibility is it to maintain, or it's conservation land, you know, and so I think now that there's the radars on it now as to what's supposed to happen.
All those pieces could be worked through.
Yeah.
Getting the plantings along number 9, the native seed mix, the delineation that tells DPW where to mow, where to not
Yeah.
mow.
So it becomes a collaborative effort.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
We can see that happening.
Mm-hmm.
Nice job.
I just wanted to say as
Marisha, could you, yeah, if you can come up, tell us who you are. This all gets recorded in our minutes.
I'm Marisha Taylor, and I'm a property owner at 4 Pond Street. I was also born and raised in Westford, and I'm happy to be moving back to town. And I just really I'm here just to support this project. I'm really very impressed and grateful for the work that Jeff and the Historical Society have been doing. I think it's an extremely important project. I just had the honor of going to Normandy, to the beaches in Normandy. So, given that it's a veterans park, I really consider it our civic responsibility as leadership of the town and citizens of the town to really dignify a memorial to our veterans in town. And I really want to thank you as a committee for considering this and taking this on and supporting it. I also offer my support as a citizen and someone in town to work with you in any way I can to support your efforts. I just think it's a great opportunity, and I'm grateful to everyone involved. Thank you.
Marisha's maiden name was Kaziniak. Those who might know her brother Jim, who's with the Zoning Board of Appeals, and her dad graduated in 1937 with my father from Westford Academy. So we go back a ways.
I have one comment. I think we should give them some latitude in the wording, because I saw 2 different sets of wording.
Yeah, that was, you know, I think one was in the original kind of request to the Monuments and Memorial Committee, and then Maryland Day provided this language, and I think it was more for the commission to understand the extent or, you know, approximate what's going to be there, and to, again, where the
Just don't hold them to one or the other.
Yeah.
where the commission is the property owner, it's, you know, to support, you know, to their requesting support prior to going before the select board at an upcoming meeting.
Yeah,
So-
and this would be very comparable to the plaque honoring Alan Emmett that was put over near Kennedy Pond on the trails. You know, people who have made a big difference, it's nice that their contributions are documented.
And as I said, this gentleman, it's such a large part of, you know, what he contributed to veterans, and he was right there. In fact, with a plaque, that might be where his bedroom was. I mean, it just, you know, being Freedom Park for veterans, it seemed an appropriate next step, so.
We need to take a vote on this.
Motion to support, please.
So a motion, motion to support the installation of a historical marker at Freedom Park
So moved.
for Mr. Sullivan. Francis M. Sullivan.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Done deal.
Done deal.
Thank you, and
Thank you for
Matt,
doing
I'll
what
keep
you
you
did.
abreast of anything that's, you know, as we go forward.
Thank
So
you.
if there's any little change of an inch or so, we're gonna let you know.
Yep.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to our 7:55 PM agenda item, discussion of enforcement order compliance for Spalding Hill Estates.
Hello,
Good evening.
I'm Scott Smyers from Oxbow Associates. David Guthrie.
Hello, all.
applicant.
Time no see.
And I submitted a letter for the Conservation Commission to consider regarding the restoration recommendations for the wetlands. There are 3 different areas, so hopefully you've had a chance to review the letter. If you want, I can just go through it briefly, or you can start asking questions. Want me to summarize it?
Sure.
Okay.
Yep.
Great. So I was out there on September 29th, and then my coworker Dom was out there on October 9th. There's 3 areas. The northern area we call the St. Augustine Drive to the northern property line. That had some problems with the erosion control barrier. As you know, it was a very wet summer and a lot of problems with any unstabilized soil surfaces on steep slopes, and especially in this particular part of town. And I think you probably know a lot of Westford. There's a lot of rock, a lot of shallow soil, and some steep topography, which makes for challenging drainage. So I think that that had something to do with it too, but the big problem is that it was not stabilized, and some of the erosion control barriers were not maintained throughout the summer. So it went through that, down the hill into the wetland, leaving quite a bit of sediment deposits in the wetland. So we were recommending 4 recommendations: repair and maintain the erosion control barriers. And I just went out there today and found that the most important part of the erosion control barriers were in very good condition, or had been repaired or upgraded, updated, and they've even put an erosion control blanket down on some of the exposed soils at the lowest end, so that was good to see that. And then after the plants enter dormancy, which is right around now, but let's say November, we're going to use hand tools to remove the sediment from the stream channels and the wetlands, and that'll be overseen by myself or someone from Oxbow Associates. And then as the sediment's being removed, we'll assess the impact based on the thickness and the extent of the sediment, and collect data on vegetation within, ecological characteristics of the impacted areas. And we'll just use field notes, GPS, and a lot of photos to sort of figure out what's underneath there. Sometimes when you pull the sediment off, you just want to let it grow back. Sometimes it's a big dead zone and you want to plant a few things in there, or a combination, you know, like this area looks okay, we'll let that grow back. This area we should put some seed mix in, and this area maybe we should put some shrubs or even small trees for part of the restoration. So what we usually recommend on these types of restorations is to just do it one step at a time and see what we find when we roll back when we remove the sediment. Yeah, so that's what I'm saying there. Then there was a second area we called the sand filter buffer zone south of Groton Road. So there was a outlet pipe there, a drainage outlet, and apparently during the summer when the flows came, a lot of sediment came down there and sort of pushed through there. And that's really in the upland. It's in the buffer zone. It's not a direct impact to the wetlands right there. So, you know, that could be dug out, you know, anytime, right? We could get that out of there, and I don't know if we'll really need any sort of machine down there because it's not quite on the road, but there are some natural vegetation there. But if we have to do it by hand, we'll do that by hand too. And then the potential vernal pool east of Keys Road. There's a small pond there, about 100 feet by 100 feet, and pretty deep, over 3 feet in the center. It did have some green frogs in it, which are not vernal pool species. We didn't see any obligate vernal pool species there, and the brief evaluation doesn't mean that it isn't necessarily a vernal pool, but we didn't see anything right away that tipped us off to that definitely being the case. And furthermore, there's sediment accumulated on the edge of the road there. There's certainly some that went into the pond, but once it gets in there and it gets underwater, it's obviously a little harder to remove than in a wetland that's drier and not submerged all year long. So we want to look at that a little bit more carefully, and maybe go with somebody from the commission out there and see if it's worth getting in there to try to get any of that material out, or if we should just let it be. So that sums up the conditions and the recommendations, and we're here to answer any of your questions.
For all 3 of them, if there's going to be inspection or work done, we should hear about when it's planned for and when we'll hear back. Right, we'll set some dates to get that information fed back to us.
So is this the kind of thing that you could lay it out in a timeline that says, we'll start on this date, the first one will take 2 weeks, the second one will take, is it kind of that concrete, or is it basically, we're starting a step and we will now let you know when we'll be ready to start the next step? I mean, in terms of a timeline for expectations?
I think it's just a matter of scheduling, once we decide when we want a starting point of the work, then just a matter of scheduling with myself and the contractors that are gonna actually do the work that we'll be overseeing, make sure we have everybody available in the right times, and the weather's gonna be, decent for that type of work. We don't wanna do it in the pouring rain, but other than that, we should be good to go.
Okay. Is there any reporting frequency that would make sense for, in terms of status reports of where we are?
I mean, once work starts every week, every, week and a half, if that's, I mean, again, once work starts, and again, maybe it's good, things are gonna be well completed within an initial, 10-day period,
Right, yeah,
whether
could
it's a
be.
10-day period,
Yeah.
it could just be done.
Right, yeah.
And,
That's what we're hoping for, I think.
So I think that, I think reporting every, approximate 10 days, 7 to 10 days.
Okay.
Would be sufficient, and then, include it in.
Synchronize it with our meetings every 2 weeks.
Well, I think,
Friday before a meeting or something, so we get a,
but I think if they're doing it every week, then we have a report or two that's part of our meeting packet.
okay, that's
Okay.
fine.
Question that I had is where you're removing the sediment. I know that when there's ground disturbance like this is when, a lot of times an invasive species.
Right.
So is that gonna be part of your evaluation? Is that something that we need to be concerned about in the latter phase of the recommendation, to make sure that because of these activities, we don't see an increase in invasives in these areas?
Yeah, that's a good point, and it is certainly a concern, and that's one of the reasons why once we pull the sediment off and we expose the vegetation that's there, if that's mostly native plants, then that's a good thing. If it's mostly
But,
invasive plants already, then we know we're gonna have an uphill battle with that, so.
And I was thinking more like when you made the comment about it being a dead zone. Is
Right.
if it's a dead zone and it's
Then we wanna
disturbed,
get something growing in there.
then
that
we
would-
want to get something growing so that the first thing we don't get in there is invasive.
Exactly, yep. So we're on the same page with that. We haven't worked out the details, but that will be part of our forthcoming details with that. And then, but what we don't have in this, but you alluded to, is over time, if you're monitoring that for, okay, well, how does it, okay, we're all done with this. We've given you the report for phase 1 of the restoration, but do you want us to look at it the next year and the year after that and see if, how things are going then? Because
Well, and I think some of that may be predicated on what are the recommendations coming out of step 4, because if everything's, if there's living plants underneath and they just regenerate, that's one thing. If we're needing to replace native species or whatever and monitor growth, then yes, then we may want to look at it for a longer period of time to make sure we don't start some invasive infestations.
okay, yeah, that makes sense. So we're on the same page with that.
Everybody's so quiet. It's getting late. Okay. Matt.
I have no further comments.
Okay, so.
It works, and I can
Maybe
certainly.
it's good to be scheduled at 9:30.
Yes. Oh, okay, so,
And Eric's not here, so that's probably why it's a little quiet, right?
yes. But Eric gets up very early in the morning, so the later in the meeting, he's,
But that's a pertinent point.
yes. Okay, so we're on board with your recommendations. So what's the next steps?
Kind of just when it gets kind of when it starts, and then.
Should start like right away, right?
Well, no.
Right, I mean, that.
Well,
that'll-
well, it's been-
Well,
it's
it's started because they've done the repair and the maintenance of erosion control.
Good, good.
Yeah, but the, when, in terms of, again, back to scheduling of, okay, here's kind of, their,
Get the bodies out there.
right, and assessing and kind of, do the removal of, so that should be, if not before the commission's next meeting, certainly before the commission, by the commission's, last meeting in November on the 29th, there should be some update.
An outline of some sort.
I think the culvert work is going to be sooner than later. That's an easier one than the wetland downstream that he mentions it's wet in there. We've been waiting for it to dry. It hasn't been drying. It's, this week's helping a lot. Next week's not going to help much, but, and that's a piece I think that's sensitive to the moisture content, really, and getting in there.
Yeah,
in and
yeah.
out of there and creating damage going in and out. So,
Right.
That's a piece we've been watching. It's just been raining all fall, all summer, every Saturday. So,
Yeah,
but the culvert we can get on pretty
Okay.
quickly. That's an easy one. We can get on there right away.
Then you can keep us posted when you do
Yeah.
this, so we'll have a record.
And I think, if you said get in that wetland tomorrow, we'd get in the wetland tomorrow, but I don't know that we're all best served to do that.
I
we're
think
gonna
I'll-
leave that
yeah.
with Scott.
Yeah.
Proceed, knowing that we're not ignoring it and certainly not disregarding
Sounds
it,
like a
but
good plan.
Well, I did think of one more question. When you've removed all this sediment, where's the sediment going to be disposed of?
appropriately outside the buffer zone.
On site?
I don't know yet. I mean, it seems like.
Okay. It just, I mean, it came from site, so.
Right, yeah.
yeah, there's a detention pond down there with a pretty large surrounding berm and stabilization area adjacent to it, so probably we'll go there.
Okay.
Outside of that, we have that geonet on the backside. We have some rock on the outfall, away from all that, obviously. Just, I think a point of reference, we're paving Friday,
Okay,
which is gonna help tremendously up there. The outside perimeter of the asphalt will be temporarily Cape Cod bermed to keep the water on the roadway instead of sheeting off the roadway and running down that hill again. So we feel like, finally we've come to the point where we're gonna have far better control, rather than just repairing and replacing silt fence, which we've done to the tune of probably $40,000 this summer. We're gonna have control of the water and where it goes.
okay. So, so responsible disposal of accumulated siltation
Yeah.
or sediment. Okay,
And we'll just keep Matt updated on our schedule, right? Just,
That
we'll
sounds
we'll
good.
try to keep things moving along.
yeah. And he
If we need to
can,
come back, we'll come back.
Yeah,
okay,
all right?
thank you very
So
much.
basically, you'll hear from them weekly in some kind of a email or update on what's
Yep.
going on. You could even use the outline of your memo as sort of a outline of the report.
Sure, that sounds good.
Worked on this item, this item,
Yep.
this item, this one's completed halfway here. This
Yep.
we haven't started yet because whatever.
Right.
So should we
Letting it
take
dry out.
motion to approve the recommendations in the report?
Yeah.
Okay, can I have a motion?
Second?
All those in favor? Aye. Okay,
We expedite.
thank you very much.
Thank you. Nice to see everyone.
Moving on to our 8 PM agenda item, it's a pre-filing discussion of request to install a shed at 62 Lakeshore Drive South. Robert Walters. Walter.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you taking the time again, Rob Walter, 62 Lakeshore Drive.
Thank you for your patience.
Yes, absolutely. I'll be brief. I know we've gone a long way tonight. Noel, I hope you're enjoying your first year on the committee.
Yeah.
Great. So I'm looking to consider installing a shed. And let me first say that thank you for the approval for the last order of conditions to take out the creosote railroad ties and put up the stone outside wall. It's retained it perfectly. It's perfectly stable down there by the lake. So what I'm hoping to do is, if you see just left of the staircase, what I'm proposing is an 8x8, and actually there's a base that's already existing. I'd just be building it on top of that base. I'm
When you
50.
say a base,
There's a base that's timber with crushed stone already there, and I'd be building it on top of that.
so was
So
that,
there would be no ground disturbed,
was that pre-existing or was that a feature of your last project?
pre-existing.
Okay. I just like details.
Sure. The purpose of, now I'm 55 years old, so if you were to count, there's 63 stairs to the top to the house. I'm not getting any younger, and there's things that I'd like to store. There's a reel mower. I don't use electric or gas, anything by the lake. So I've got a reel mower to take care of that lower section. I'd like to store that in there. cushions, life jackets, and things of that nature. So the structure would be wood framed, set on a level crushed stone base, as I explained. It's set back it would be set back, it's 15 feet from the edge of the stone wall to the base of the stairs. So it would be set from from the edge of that base back to where you see the retaining wall is, although it's on the left-hand side. It would be above the 100-year floodplain. Again, no ground would be disturbed. Materials would be hand-carried down the stairs and/or brought in with a 24-foot pontoon boat. And I would value your input as to feasibility and any recommendations.
How big is it gonna be?
8 by 8.
Oh, okay. I didn't see that there.
And again, this is before I go into any of the filing or anything that you feel would be deemed recommended or.
We had a neighbor, not right next to you, but down on, what is it, Enmore? Elm Street, okay, that had a shed, and we went back and forth, and in order to keep appropriate distance back from the lake, we were looking at 30 feet. This doesn't look like it's gonna be 30 feet, it looks like more like 15.
15 to 23.
23? What, is there any way to get equipment from a shed that would be up on that, that first wall or whatever it is?
Do you have any platforms? Do you have any breaks, or do you have any pauses in those 63 stairs down where potentially the shed is outside the 30, but it's not all the way at the top of the hill?
I could take a look, but it would be eroding the hillside.
So you don't have an existing platform where the shed could go?
No.
In this area here, what kind of distance you're talking about if it was in this area? I can't see what's on the other side there.
I would hate to put more pressure on that that retaining wall.
We actually had to move the shed to get outside, to get to 30 feet.
That's why I wanted a pre-filing discussion before weighing in one way or the other.
And what about, could you, if this is something that's really seasonal stuff, what about a temporary storage bin that's put down there in the spring to put cushions and stuff in, and then at the end of the season, this storage bin goes back up the stairs?
Doesn't look happy.
No,
Yeah,
okay.
that's-
My
wife and I both have serious back problems.
Okay.
We don't expect you to carry.
Well, no, but it just, in terms of trying to think outside the box and what we hold other people to.
Well, you've like Buffy and my next door neighbor.
Yeah, Dirks.
The Jeffries.
Dirks, yeah.
Derek, sorry. They put a nice big platform, and it's probably 10 or 15 feet from the water line.
I mean, they replaced that one was replaced in kind in the location that it was.
Yep.
So, that's, and it's on,
And I'd say this base is already existing. So I'm hoping that there'd be some latitude.
Question, so you said you don't want to put anything on the retaining wall, but this is a small shed, right? You just have light stuff in there. Do you think it would actually compress the wall?
Well, 8 by 8 wood structure is gonna be pretty heavy.
So you're more concerned about the stress the structure provides rather than the contents?
Well, I want it to be solid enough
Yeah.
that if you've ever been down at the lake my dock, when it was put up on the side last winter, was blown and totaled the rest of the dock system in a storm. So that shed would need to be really stable, and I feel that wood would be the only way. I wouldn't put plastic down there. It just wouldn't stand up to the north winds.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty please?
We've made your neighbors lift and move their shed to get it outside 30 feet. And we went around and around with them that they wanted just an exception just for them.
No.
You can't just give an exception for one without
I
everybody
understand.
coming in line to get, okay, you're at 10 feet, I want mine 10 feet, I want mine.
Completely understand.
He's right to
There's
the water.
hosts of sheds inside of 15 feet around
I
the
mean,
lake.
that's a distance that we work with on a lot of projects. You know, we have discretion inside that 100-foot buffer, and we don't go below the 30 feet. So maybe think of something, or come up with some way to get what storage you need at 30 feet, at the 30-foot line. And that's great that it's a real lawnmower as
30
opposed to
feet puts
gasoline
me halfway back up the stairs.
on the stairs.
Well, okay, so that's 30 feet, so that's the thing with the slope, is there's 30 feet linear, and then there's 30 feet going up the slope.
On a diagonal, yeah.
Yeah, and we're talking, so for this, it would be 30 feet linear. Yeah, and so what you're saying is 30 feet gets you far enough up the slope that it's not saving you work.
Right, 23 feet back, it would be the back of the shed. 23 feet is just about where, you see that retaining wall on the right-hand side? If you drew a line straight across, that's,
From the back of that?
that's about 23 feet from the water. And that's that would be the back side. So if it was an 8-foot shed, it'd have to be 23 plus 7 plus 8. And that would be halfway up the stairs. Thoughts? No?
Can't do anything
No, I
less
mean,
than
it
30
just,
feet.
is,
We've
I
made-
thought it
we've-
was within your discretion.
It is,
it is,
but we've never moved more discretion than 30 feet.
yeah.
We've actually moved neighbors back from, what were they, like 8 or 10 feet or something? We
Well-
made them lift the shed and move it back to 30 feet.
And didn't we, over at Summer Village, didn't we somebody had actually built a paver patio within the 30 feet, and they had to move it back,
Yeah, numerous.
so,
Well, sounds like a no.
okay. But thank you for coming and talking to us. Okay, 8:05 PM agenda item, certificate of compliance request for Smith on,
It's too close.
hi there.
Hi, my name's Brian Burke. I'm an attorney and I represent John Smith and Garside Monuments. We're in the process of selling a property on 90 Tingsboro Road for a host of reasons. And during the process of the sale, this came up that there was an outstanding certificate of compliance from 20 years ago. So we're asking, I believe Matt went out to the site and he's been very helpful. Although there's been compliance with, am I correct?
Yeah, so the order of conditions was, in 2013, was for the reconstruction of a subsurface sewer disposal system. The health department files had an as-built dated September 2004, which is very helpful and certainly shows the location of the new septic system and how it was constructed in substantial conformance with the approved plan. In going out to the property, accumulated inorganic and organic materials were observed dumped off the northerly slope and westerly slope, kind of tangential to Tingsboro Road, and then behind the building, the commercial structure. Photos included, the materials included brick, concrete, just dumped organics from over time. There was some, I mean, accumulated litter, and I mean, Tingsboro Road is certainly a well-traveled road, and you know, none would, I'd be surprised if there was zero litter with its proximity to the roadway. But there was also, pieces of styrofoam, maybe granite, again, I don't know, a rock, broken pieces of rock, concrete, maybe a 55 plastic drum container.
There's a compression.
Oh, air compressor?
An air compressor.
Oh, so maybe it wasn't plastic, but was certainly a foreign object. And so
So there's some cleanup that needs to get done? in
well,
order to
I mean,
satisfy the-
and this is, would the commission like to issue an enforcement order to clean up the areas northerly, the slopes west
In the
of-
buffer zone.
Yeah, the areas within the buffer zone, while also issuing the certificate of compliance, because the work that, was regulated under the order was, granted, it's been 20 years, but it did pass Title V, so it's probably in still good working order. So, and that's kind of where, I think issuing the certificate of compliance and an enforcement order for, removal of, within 60 days.
It separates the two topics.
Right, and it keeps, the sale moving along while also, requiring the work to be done.
I'm hoping that we may have been a little more proactive about it, because when I found out about it this morning, I spoke to Matt. I only have 5 copies. And I spoke with Mr. Smith, and he and another gentleman spent the whole day walking around there, pulling everything out. So the top picture, if you'll see, is all the debris that was in the photographs. And then the pictures behind, the after pictures that Matt took. It's from the same angle, so you could see that there was a removal of a lot of the debris. So we're very motivated to do the sale of the property. And maybe what could be done, and I suggest rather than order a cleanup, have Matt go back and.
If he takes another look and it looks good, then we can go with a
So
certificate.
we're doing the certificate of compliance anyway, and so now the open question is,
Right.
do we do the enforcement order or not?
Right, and
Because the
that,
work's already done.
and if certainly, the materials, that first page, and if you could send those to me in an email.
I will, I can do that.
But also just, if the area has been sufficiently, cleaned up, right, then we don't need to issue an enforcement order because there's nothing to issue an
You
enforcement
can
order.
let them
You'll go
know
and look?
directly, and then you can let us know at the next meeting.
Matt, you'll go and take a look,
Yes, oh yeah, no, that was the
as
intent.
long as
was
I
to-
have your word to do
Yeah.
that, that's fine.
So let's start with the certificate of compliance request. Can I have a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for DEP file number 334-1231, 90 Tingsboro Road?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and so Matt, you will go out and do a re-inspection to see whether an enforcement order is
I
required
don't know
or
when
not.
the sale is supposed to go through or anything, but we ought to try to get the inspection done and any enforcement orders, if needed, before the sale.
Yeah, no, again, I have some
I
site
can-
visits around town.
can-
I can certainly
Okay.
be out tomorrow morning.
Perfect, good.
Tomorrow would not be a hardship to be outdoors.
Oh, no, the whole weekend, I hope. But I will just, for purposes of full disclosure, we're hoping that the closing will happen Tuesday.
That's all the more reason to get out there tomorrow and be
And,
prepared.
and they're still kind of wrapping up cleaning and stuff like that, so if there's additional material that needs to be picked up, they'll be around to do it, we hope. So if
Is the
Matt.
same kind of business gonna go there, do you know, or?
No, I believe an insurance company's gonna use it and fix it up, and, cause the property with the single family is all being sold is one big deal. So we're optimistic.
Our side granite going away.
Unfortunately, a family business is now going away, when, Mr. Smith's,
I knew Al.
when Al passed away, and then his uncle got ill, it kind of fell on John's plate to handle it, and to be honest with you, it's just something beyond his skill set. Fortunately.
So I'll be out probably 11 o'clock if you want to let them know.
The sooner he gets it cleaned up, the sooner he can look at it and say it's good, and then you're clear with us.
Yeah, I mean, if he goes there tomorrow and says you gotta do a little more cleaning, it'll be done probably in the afternoon or all day, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
How many trips are you gonna make over there?
I'd say I'll check, see where we're at tomorrow, and then if, and then, back on Monday.
And-
If there's stuff that needs to be followed up.
Well, and actually, since the pictures you took were so helpful, that if you see additional cleanup needed, you can focus pictures on that, and that may get you out of having to write an enforcement order.
Exactly. That's always the goal.
Yeah.
And I talked with John about it. He didn't have much of a memory of anything like that they did, because it looks like some of the stuff's been there for quite some time.
Yeah, I in meeting with him on site, there's a old car chassis out very far out back that certainly
Has a
wasn't-
tree.
Yeah,
Has a tree
wasn't
through
recent
it.
within the last 12, 13 years. So he was saying that they used to race. There used to be like a racetrack down there or something. But so there's I certainly understand there's some anthropogenic impacts to that site. So if we can clean up the readily accessible and most recent materials, I think that can be good overall stuff.
Well, thank you for your patience. A long night. Thank you for adding us on the very end of a long night. And I will say one thing about the memorial. It's really cool. I was back there listening to it, and how you can almost come full circle with something like that. I think that's really great, because I was the chairman of the Veterans Park Restoration Committee in South Boston, where I happened to grow up in a housing project, and we did a park over that became Needle Park at one time, and then we took it back, and it's now Veterans Park again. It's been thriving now for 25 years. So excited, and it was really cool to see people still committed and find that little niche of something, that really kind of brings it full circle to the park. And now it has a really cool story. And probably the GI Bill itself, everybody in this room probably knows someone that's had benefited by it from a relative.
Jeff said that built the American middle class after World War II.
Yeah, and even today, it's still like a lot of my clients are Vietnam vets in Iraq War, and I have two nephews that each did 2 tours in Iraq, and they both utilized it as well. So it's really been a profound impact. It's been awesome. So I think, to find that guy that did that in a needle in a haystack, that is a great opportunity. Yeah, it's cool.
Thank you. I'll be in touch tomorrow.
All right, thanks.
Okay, on to our discussion and action items, and we'll see how quickly we can get through this. Oh, Stony Brook Conservation Area Broken Bench.
It's being installed tomorrow. Was rescheduled.
Good.
I'll have photos for the next commission meeting.
It is being,
It's being installed tomorrow. It had to be rescheduled from when it previously was.
I thought you was, okay, got it,
Yeah,
never mind.
it was going to be the 18th. It's now
Okay.
going to be tomorrow. Okay, so Stony Brook Conservation Area User Concern Follow-Up.
I don't have anything at this time.
But, yeah, so what's in process is looking at descriptions of resources that other towns have put in place to help manage their conservation properties.
Yes, and working towards a CPC application for a pilot program for the Ranger Institute.
Okay. Edwards Woods Conservation Area.
I'm meeting with the Assistant DPW Director later this week to go over what's out there, what we're looking for the DPW to, tackle, and kind of the long-term steps, and have them install some fencing and with some signs.
Is your
as well.
property? I thought you,
I'm working on it for 3 years.
okay.
Okay. Discontinued road between Providence Road and Kersey Circle. There was that draft letter?
Yep, and I mean, if there's any comments, we can certainly.
Any comments from the neighbors?
I haven't submitted.
It's comments for us before he mails it.
Yeah, but you make sure that, you know,
it
tone's
look
right.
funny.
Sometimes I get a little jumpy when I'm sending letters, you know, you guys tone down the one for Edwards Woods appropriately, get a little excited. So, look it over. I'll have it on again a discussion item for the next meeting, because
Okay.
I do not have an update for the Summer Village Conservation Restriction Amendment update.
31 Bridge Street.
As of the end of business today, I had not received anything subsequent to Special Condition 26. I did let the property owner know that the commission may consider enforcement, as it has been 2 months and nothing has been provided, and if we want to take that, you know, that next step at the next commission's meeting.
I do.
It'll be on the next
You know,
meeting's
with, you know,
agenda.
and, you know, with its compliance, and, you know, there'll be a sub-bullet and, you know, potential enforcement related to Special Condition 26, and recording it, because it hasn't gotten recorded yet. But 2 weeks and we'll figure it out.
Okay. Minutes for October 11th.
Look good.
Look good?
I had a couple of more like editorial that with the relocation of the shed for 89 Lowell Road, I wanted to make sure that it was noted that the shed was actually off the property. And with the plenty of replacement trees, not that they could be small, but they could be smaller species, so they didn't grow so tall. 35 and 39 Town Farm Road, that they're going to add a food pantry, not a regular pantry. And with 11 Tadmuck Lane, did the homeowner give us a copy of their arborist report?
Yes.
Okay. And so yeah, it just, you know, I don't know if that needs to be in the minute.
I can include line 4, it says the arborist who reviewed these trees pointed out a maple. I can say the arborist report,
Okay.
in addition to these trees identified.
Yeah,
by the
because a lot
arborist.
of, we really rely on arborist reports to make the call in terms of whether a tree should come down or not. And that was the end of my
Move to
thoughts.
approve the
Nope,
October 11th minutes as
As
amended.
amended?
Did you?
Second.
Didn't you
Wait.
have something else on page 4 for 29 keys?
Oh, yeah, 29 Keys. The minutes say that phase 2, which would begin in a few months,
A few months later, whatever.
and a few months later, and that is not going, you know, that's never been a statement of theirs. You know, they've said maybe it's the next year. So I don't know how we,
Phase 2, which would begin later.
later, yeah,
Cross out a few months.
we begin later, okay. So Jim, you were gonna make a motion?
I did.
Okay, can I have a second? Second. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Move we approve the executive session minutes of November 6th,
That's correct.
And release.
2013.
And release.
Released, yeah.
Right, they're probably already approved. but-
No, I don't,
No, we probably, all right, whatever.
Okay, we're reviewing them and releasing
Double
them.
approve them and release them.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So, and you'll be, no site visits to record, and you will,
I'll be in touch with scheduling something for
Kimball.
400 Littleton Road early next week, afternoonish. Hopefully on a sunny, non-precipitate, on a sunny day.
Oh, and it's sunny, I thought you said Sunday.
No, not on Sunday. I don't-
Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.